January 27th, 2022 meeting of the Burlington Conservation Commission to order. First, we'll read the notice pursuant to Governor Baker's June 15th, 2021 lifting of the state of emergency and following the passing of Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, which allows for remote meetings of public bodies until April 1st, 2022. This meeting of the Town of Burlington Conservation Commission is being conducted through remote participation. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. A reminder that persons who would like to listen to or view this meeting while in progress may do so by tuning into the BCAT Government Cable Access Channel or the BCAT Government Meetings Facebook live feed. Or you can also join the meeting over the phone 408-418-9388. And that telephone number is being shown on the screen now. It's meeting number 2339-548-3469. If you don't catch all of that information, you can go to the Town of Burlington calendar, click on the meeting for today's meeting, and the agenda will pop up and that information will be there. To join the Webex live video conference, click on the link on the Conservation Commission's meeting page or on the agenda in the Town of Burlington calendar. Or go to Webex and press join a meeting, put in the meeting number as shown, and there's a password there if you need it. New public hearings open tonight will not be closed so as to allow comments from those who are unable to access or uncomfortable with the technology. Comments and concerns regarding public hearings should be emailed to conservation@burlington.org before the next meeting on February 10th, 2022. Okay. Next, I'll call the roll call. Please signify your presence by saying aye or here. Don Bernstein, he is absent. Gail Lima.
Here.
Indra Deb.
Here.
Bill Boyven.
Here.
Jennifer O'Riordan, she is absent. Ed Turco.
Here.
Associate Commissioner Kent Moffett.
Here.
Thank you. Administrator John Keeley.
Here.
Assistant Administrator Eileen Coleman.
Here.
And for the record, the Chair Larry Cohen is present as well. Okay, now the agenda. We have a few things on the agenda. However, some things will not be heard. The first one is that number 6, the continued public hearing, notice of intent, 102 Rare Wind Street by Mr. Holy to replace a culvert and restore wetland stream bank, DEP number 122-666 is being continued. Could I have a motion to continue this hearing until February 10th, 2022?
So move.
Bill.
Ed.
Second.
Second, Bill.
All right, Gail, how do you vote on the continuance?
Yes.
Indra,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
The chair votes yes by a vote of 5-0-0. 102 R Wind Street is continued to February 10th, 2022. The next item on the agenda is number 7, is also being continued. That's a continued public hearing, notice of intent, 14 Spring Valley Road. Michael Casey is the proponent, construct a garage for DEP number 122-667. Do I have a motion to continue that hearing to February 10th, 2022?
Moved, Gail.
Second.
Second, Bill.
All right, and Gail, how do you vote?
Yes.
Indra,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes by a vote of 5-0-0. The public hearing for 14 Spring Valley Road is continued to February 10th, 2022. Okay, with all that business out of the way, we have the next item is after the roll call is item number 2, which is citizens' time. Is there anyone happen to be on this meeting that would like to say a few words about something not on the agenda? All right, the record should show that no one participated in citizens' time. Number 3 is the approval of minutes, January 13th, 2022, and those minutes are not ready. So we will proceed directly to item 4. Okay,
Mr. Chairman,
yes,
this is Indra Deb. For record, I have watched the video of the last meeting.
all right, thank you. All right. Now, and for item 4, I have also watched video. It's a continuation of a request for determination of applicability. 64A Middlesex Turnpike, N-Star Electric Company, doing business as Eversource Energy. It's expansion and upgrade of an existing electrical substation. It was continued from our January 13th, 2022 meeting. Some folks here for that one. Can't hear you. Your mute button may be on.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Jessica Roberts from Ty and Bond. Also on this call, Dave Hollowell from Eversource Energy and Tim Grace, a professional engineer from Ty and Bond. Ty and Bond submitted a request for determination of applicability for the proposed mobile transformer installation project, which is based at the substation 391 at 64A Middlesex Turnpike. We presented the project at the last meeting. I'd be happy to present, but the RDA was submitted to you all for review under your local bylaw. There is an isolated wetland and associated 100-foot buffer zone in the limits of the substation parcel. No work is occurring within the 20-foot no disturb zone within the parcel. But portions of the proposed substation expansion, including the installation of the mobile transformer, installation of a retaining wall, installation of the perimeter fence, are within the 100-foot buffer zone. We also discussed and presented the proposed bioretention basin, stormwater basin, a portion of which is in the 100-foot buffer zone at the last 2 meetings ago. So tonight, we requested continuance to tonight because we attended the planning board hearing for this project. And the planning board had some requests regarding additional aesthetic screening at the substation. So what we have done is proposed additional screening plantings near the substation, as well as plantings within the buffer zone. The perimeter fence also will be updated from its current condition, which is a chain link fence, 7 feet with 1 foot of barbed wire, to an 8-foot tall black powder coated fence with no barbed wire. And I would be happy to share screen. We do.
Oh,
Go
sorry.
ahead.
I was just going to ask you, you had a presentation. I was wondering.
Yes, so I was going to jump into that right now. If you'll bear with me, I'll share screen. Can you all see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Excellent. So the permit plan set that we provided with the RDA included this stormwater basin here on the southeastern portion of the substation parcel along Middlesex Turnpike, which is at the bottom of the plan here. The change that is before you tonight are some landscaping highlights listed in the box there on the slide. Basically, this 2-to-1 exterior basin slope was previously proposed as modified rock fill. And at the request of the planning board, we went back and confirmed that this slope can be stabilized with an erosion-controlled tall grass seed mix and vegetative plantings. In this case, we've proposed silky dogwood shrubs. Here you can see the 100-foot buffer zone to the isolated wetland, which is sort of hidden behind this text box here. But we've also proposed 8 screening plantings along the perimeter fence here, a portion of which are within buffer zone, a planting bed on the other side outside the buffer zone, and some additional screening plantings on the north end of the parcel. And we also prepared some renderings associated with those plantings. So here you can see this would be driving north toward the northern portion of the parcel along Middlesex Turnpike. This would be the view of the proposed basin location. So that's existing conditions. And there was snow on the ground. And proposed conditions for the selected planting plan include the deciduous maple in the front, and then in the back here, this is the exterior slope of that basin, planted with the tall grasses. Switchgrass, blue stem, and Indian grass are likely inclusions in the seed mix. And then some of the additional plantings along the slope you can see behind the tree at this location. So that's what's happening within the buffer zone. You can also see in this rendering, we've inserted the 8-foot tall black coated fence here, no barbed wire, as an improved screening measure. The remainder of this presentation is just, the additional planting locations that are outside the buffer zone, but this is existing conditions where the proposed planting bed will be near the parking area. And then we just show the proposed planting bed at full height of those screening plantings, as well as you can see we've added some arborvitae adjacent to the abutting parcel to the north for additional screening. And the last slide is just to show what the proposed new fence, examples of a proposed new fence. So that would be installed within the 100-foot buffer zone on the parcel. So that's the conclusion of the updates. Are there any questions about the overall project or about these particular updates?
Well, before we ask the commissioners, let's go to either John or Eileen and see if they have any further comment.
So the commission didn't go out and do a site walk at the site because it's just, you have to coordinate it with the Eversource people to be escorted out there. But Eileen and I did check it out. We didn't go inside the fenced area, obviously. So the wetland itself is kind of a peculiar wetland. It's basically a seep on the side of a steep hill. So it breaks out on the side of a hill and is not connected, obviously, to any other resource area. So it is isolated. And its vegetation is primarily, there's some cattails in there, there's some phragmites. It's a pretty sandy, gravelly hillside. So and obviously we were out there in January, so it wasn't heavily vegetated. But the key thing to remember is that the wetland is upgradient of all the proposed work. So the stormwater runoff is certainly important to review, but the work itself is outside the 20-foot no disturb, and it is down gradient of the actual resource area.
Okay. Do you have any further concerns about the project or issues for
I
resolution?
do not.
Okay.
No.
All right, let's see if the commissioners have anything further. Gail, anything further?
No, I think, actually it'd be nice if you could include all those grasses and replace the turf grass, but maybe some people wouldn't think that would be a good aesthetic, but I think the plantings are nice. I hope that, if they don't take, especially the ones along Middlesex, that's kind of a harsh area, that they'll be replanted. And especially those mountain laurels, which are a great plant, but they might be a tough plant to survive along Middlesex, but maybe we'll be surprised. But hopefully they'll, if they don't, we would just like to see them replaced. That's it.
Okay, one correction too. I think I inadvertently, the planting plan that I submitted to you all was planting plan 1A, and the planting plan that was intended to show the modified rockfill slope. The planting plan that we are moving forward with is 1B, and that is the first slide in this slide set, which shows the vegetated slope. So that has the single deciduous tree and the arborvitae.
Okay. Indra?
No, only thing I have a comment, like the fencing, the black fencing looks good.
All right, Bill?
I just had one question which occurred to me that I didn't ask earlier. How do you get these portable transformers onto the site? What's the path? Do they come up from the neighboring property, or is there a driveway that goes up there?
That is a great question. I know folks from Eversource are working on the construction timing and truck routes, and working with adjacent property owners on how the equipment will be delivered.
Okay, so you may come in from the adjacent parking lot.
Yes, there's one parking lot in the front of Middlesex Turnpike. And the parking spaces that are toward the rear of the parcel are being incorporated into the expansion. So Eversource would be bringing in equipment through to the rear of the substation.
As you're looking at the plan, can we see the plan again?
Are you all staring at yourselves as I share a screen of your photos? Sorry about that. Zoom in here.
There we go.
Yeah, so this is the main parking area for the substation. And then some of these existing spaces in the back are being incorporated into the new expansion area.
Okay, and you may come in from the right side there, from that parking lot?
Correct.
Okay, that would make sense if you can work it out with that property owner, yeah. Okay, I was curious, but you were coming up from straight up for your own property. I didn't see how that was gonna happen. All right, good, thank you.
Sure.
Okay, thanks, Bill. How about Ed?
Nothing to add.
All right. How about Kent?
Nothing to add. Just think the new fence and the new plantings and all that will look really good.
Okay, just one quick question for myself. Who monitors the planting of the evergreens and the ornamental trees with bioretention grasses and so forth? Is that been established? Who monitors for the correct planting of that stuff?
We are coordinating with the planning board on their special permanent site plan decisions. And there are some draft provisions in their decisions about replacement plantings and monitoring that. In terms of the stormwater basin plantings, there would be an operation and maintenance plan associated with the basin interior.
Okay. Well, we'll see what the decision says. Maybe some of our decisions require an environmental monitor. I don't know if it's necessary, but let's see where that goes. Okay, is there anyone in the audience for this? This is a request for determination of applicability, 64A Middlesex Turnpike for N-Star Electric Company doing business as Eversource Energy. Okay, the record should show no one in the audience for this. All right, Eileen or John, do we have a draft decision?
We do.
Okay,
So I think Jessica needs to stop sharing unless Eileen can override it.
okay, she did.
Okay, so as you can see, the first page is all plan references, and then on the bottom of that, Eileen has noted that some of those are going to be revised after and endorsed by the planning board, and then we'll get copies of those updated plans.
Okay.
So the findings, we've already described all the work and the jurisdictional area. So it's a buffer zone project to only regulated wetland. Other findings, the commission found that the expansion of the substation and construction of the bioretention area would not detrimentally affect the isolated wetland. The commission finds that the wetland delineation is generally accurate, but due to the time of year, is not formally approving the exact boundaries of the wetland resource areas as flagged on site. And then on to the conditions, proposed negative determination. With the conditions, condition 2 is prior to beginning any construction, sediment barriers shall be put in and inspected by the conservation staff. Condition 3 is regarding construction entrance for the site. Construction 4 is the protection of, or excuse me, condition 4 is about all the infiltration and storm scepter and whatnot being witnessed by a professional engineer. So there is a storm scepter upgradient of the bioretention area. Condition 5 is a requirement that it be maintained as in the O&M plan. Condition 6 is about disposal of material off-site. Condition 7 is regarding no stockpiling or overnight parking of trucks within 50 feet of the wetland. Condition 8 is regarding tracking on the roadway. Condition 9 is no additional grading beyond what's shown on the plan. Condition 10 is regarding no dewatering without a prior approved plan. Condition 10, no additional tree cutting. The condition 12 is about dumping materials in the wetlands. Condition 13 is regarding the commission's right to access the site. So in coordination with the applicant, we've agreed that the commissioners can't just go out and inspect the site without an escort. And condition 14 is regarding non-compliance issues. So it is a determination of applicability. So there's no continuing conditions like there would be with an order of conditions.
All right, Gail.
Yeah, so I tried to send a message on chat, but I think it's grayed out for some reason. I can't access it. But anyways,
We blocked the chat.
yeah. So one of the things I just want to ask is in terms of the planting, so they've been changed, I guess, from the planning board. Will these be still native plantings? Do we need to include that?
Jessica, are they all native?
Yes, we've scoped native plantings. That's important for Eversource as well.
Okay. We can put that, we can put in an additional condition about that as well.
That's it.
All set, Gail? Okay. Anyone else on the commission? Indra or Bill or Ed or Kent, anything further on the conditions?
Nope.
Nope. Okay. All right, John or Eileen, should we have any provision for inspection of the plantings or monitoring of the planting itself on this? Because given that it's a request for determination, we don't have the same conditions often appear on our full permits.
It's your call. If you'd like it, we could put it in there.
They do have an O&M plan that calls for inspection of the bioretention area. Do you need more than that?
Well, the minimum,
Gail says native plants, so we can also add, and they will be, examined after a year or something.
yeah, it should be something, at least an after the planting fact inspection. And it would seem to me that someone from their environmental area or their designee should send a report in that they've been done properly.
Okay.
Okay, anything else? All right, then, if there's nothing further, does the applicant have any question about the conditions they heard?
I do not. I will ask Dave Hollowell if he's on the line, if he has any questions.
Hi, good evening, everyone. No questions. Conditions seem reasonable.
Yeah, these are actually pretty standard conditions. Okay. All right, then could I have a motion to approve a negative conditional determination for a request for determination of applicability for 64A Middlesex Turnpike, N-Star Electric Company, DBA Eversource Energy for the expansion and upgrade of an existing electric substation. Under Burlington bylaw, is it under the State Wetland Protection Act, this one, folks? Or is it just bylaw?
Oh, it's just the bylaw.
That's what I thought. Under Burlington bylaw, Article 14. Is there a motion to that effect?
Moved, Gail.
Moved it.
Second?
Second, Gail.
All right, Gail, how do you vote?
Yes.
Indra?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes,
Ed?
Yes.
Okay, and the chair votes yes by a vote of 5-0-0. Negative conditional determination for 64A Middlesex Turnpike is approved. Since there's no bonding requirement or surety requirement, because this is not a full permit. So I think we are all set unless anybody has something else on this item. Nope. Then thank you all for your time.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
All right,
Thank you.
have a good evening. Okay, the next, item 5 on our agenda is a continued public hearing, notice of intent. It's a Burlington wetland bylaw only proposal for 9 Cary Ave, proposed by 9 Cary Ave LLC to demolish a dwelling and construct a new dwelling. Somebody here for that one?
I am. Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Commission members. I'm Rich Kirby from LEC Environmental, and with me tonight is Tamara Martins, who's representing the applicant. And as indicated, this is a notice of intent for a tear down and rebuild of a single-family house located in the buffer zone to an isolated vegetated wetland. At the last hearing, my colleague Julia Hogabone presented the project, and as did project engineer Al Galla. And Julia is getting married this weekend, so I'm filling in for her tonight. We prepared a revised plan, basically doing a couple of things. Number one, we converted the porous pavement driveway to a pervious paver driveway. We added stone trenches on either side of the driveway for redundancy to provide a way for stormwater runoff that doesn't infiltrate into the spaces between the pavers to get into that stone aggregate that's beneath the driveway. Thank you, Eileen, for sharing the screen there. You can see the proposed driveway with the 2 dark lines on either side. Those are the stone trenches. We also have a pervious paver walkway extending from Cary Avenue to provide access to the house. The other thing we did is we added a post and rail fence along the 25-foot buffer zone. I'm sorry, 20-foot buffer zone. And we also added some restoration notes to the bottom right of the plan, which commit the applicant to installing 10 shrubs, 10 native shrubs, and there's a list there of native shrubs that we're committing to planting, and 950 herbaceous plugs. And again, a variety of native wildflower plugs that are typically available from nurseries that specialize in those native plants. They come in flats of 50 or so. And they're it's like buying a 6-pack of annuals at your local nursery, but it's a big pack of 50, and they come in. So we'll be putting those in, and that area will be allowed to go fallow. So I think that covers the changes. Also, Al Galla revised the operation and maintenance plan from one that was applicable for porous pavement to one that is applicable to pervious pavers. And of course, the plan detail was modified for those pervious pavers. So I think that's everything, but I'm happy to answer any questions the commission may have.
All right, on this one, I was absent at the last meeting, but I have watched the entire presentation, so I am qualified to vote on this as well. Okay, so John and Eileen, on this one, do you have any issues you'd like to bring to the attention of the commission?
So no, I think Mr. Kirby discussed all the issues that we had raised at the last meeting, and I think they've addressed them the way we we had requested that they be addressed. The only thing that some of you who may not remember, but there is a sump pump shown. But the thing is, if you look at the finished floor, the basement floor elevation, it's really only about a foot below the existing grade out there. So this doesn't have a full foundation. That was discussed at the last meeting. So I don't know if you picked it up when you watched the video. Other than that, I mean, I think it looks good.
All right, let's see if the commissioners have anything further. Gail?
I just want to confirm, because I know that we discussed this at last meeting, and you may have said it, I might have missed it, I apologize. But because on the plan, it says proposed porous driveway, it was agreed that those were going to be pavers, correct?
That's correct. And the detail that is also included on the plan shows.
Right, that's what I thought I saw, yep.
Yeah,
Okay,
and
yep,
the
right.
O&M plan is for the pavers as well. So
Nope.
I hear what you're saying. We could have perhaps labeled it a little bit more concisely, but it's
I
pretty
think I actually saw it before, but when you shared that screen, I just wanted to make sure that that was what I remembered. But otherwise, I think it looks good, and I want to say that I'm actually kind of admire that you actually did things like put in porous pavement, which is usually a struggle to get applicants to do, and kind of doing the kind of revegetating the area appropriately. That's all I have to say.
All right, thank you. Indra?
Yes, I have also watched the video for the last meeting, and I'm happy to see this porous pavement.
All right, Bill?
Yeah, I commend you. This was an excellent application and you responded exactly to anything we asked. So thank you very much. I have no other comments.
All right, Ed?
Same here. Well done.
All right, Kent?
Nothing to add that hasn't already been stated.
All right, I have two questions. One is, I guess, as I understood the video, part of the roof is being discharged to the porous pavers. Is that correct?
I believe so, yes. I believe if you look at the plan, there's a downspout by the driveway, and that would direct some of that runoff to the porous driveway, to the
So is
pavers.
that fed underneath the porous pavers, or is that fed on top of the porous pavers?
I think it's right on top. That's typically how I see it. There's really no reason for it to go into the bed underneath. It goes on top, and that way, if you get any leaves or anything else that gets into the gutter, it stays on top of the driveway instead of getting into the gravel beneath it.
I mean, I don't
Tend to have a clogging problem there.
I'm not sure about this question, but isn't there a point on porous pavers when you're discharging on top, it can only infiltrate so fast that if you put too much water on it, it just essentially runs off, a portion of it runs off?
I mean, these are going to have 3/8 spacing, and that water is going to fan out. The other thing is, if you look at the placement of the downspout, it's right by the stone trench that's next to the driveway. So I think there's plenty of space for that downspout water to get where it needs to go.
Do you need to spread it at all so you don't have a channelized flow of water running past the pavement and off into the street?
I really don't think we're going to have, that's a long distance for that water to travel over the porous driveway and or within the stone trench next to the driveway. That's a lot of space for that water to flow before it gets into the street. And frankly, if there's that much water flowing down the driveway, there's going to be a lot more water flowing down the street.
Okay. Well, it seems to me we should somehow get an after the fact inspection of that to make sure that it's right. You don't need to spread it instead of having it discharged in a channel through the gutter.
Right.
But I accept what you're saying.
Right.
I'm not disputing it. I'm just sort of wondering.
Yeah, no, I think it'd be good to inspect it during a rain event to see how it is functioning. But I know Al Gala has designed hundreds of these that I've worked on with him alone. I'm sure he's done more. So and we work in towns like Lexington and Bedford that often require, for example, with the porous pavement, they require testing afterward, where you seal off a section, have a PVC pipe come up out of the driveway, and you fill it with water, and you time how long it takes the water to move through the porous pavement.
Really?
There's a standardized test for that we're required to do. I don't think it's applicable to pervious pavers, but I know it's applicable to porous pavement.
Very interesting. Thank you for that information. Okay. All right. And the other question I have is, I understood from the video that we're going with a post and rail fence in the backyard along the 20-foot no disturb. Is that correct, or have the information, did I misunderstand?
That's correct, and it is noted on the plan. The line showing the fence is, that's the arrow pointing to the line. The line is actually a grayscale line, so it's kind of hard to read on this plan.
Yeah.
That's the intent to, that'll allow for some wildlife movement. It'll be aesthetically pleasing, but it will clearly demarcate the area.
Okay, well, my plan, I am not sure I see the fence on the plan I'm looking at, but that's not important. The question is, are you following the curved nature of the 20-foot no disturb, or should you be asking for the commission to straighten out the line so it's sort of like symmetrical with the house? In other words,
Well, if we were to do that, I suppose we could split. I don't know how the commission typically does that. If they allow you to split the difference and you protect a little bit more on one side and a little bit less on the other.
well, that's what I'm getting at, actually.
Yeah.
And I don't know if the commission feels they would allow that, but I'm just wondering, for aesthetic purposes, does it make more sense? I'd like any other
Yeah, well, we
commissioner to chime in.
didn't know that that was an option. If it is an option, it might be something worth exploring, but I'm not sure Tamara wants to continue the hearing over it.
No, I'm not suggesting we need to continue the hearing. I'm
Okay.
asking the other commissioners if they have any opinion at all on that.
I'm comfortable either way. This is Bill. Either the way it's shown or straighten it out and, split the difference. That's fine as well.
Yeah, so I'm not sure it's an issue since there was no objections to it when we did last time, that, in terms of the line. So but I kind of agree with Bill, but when it was brought up at the last meeting, the applicant didn't, they were very agreeable to it. They didn't, ask for any accommodations.
Yeah, well, I mean, just because they didn't ask, I thought I would bring it up in case.
Yeah.
To me, it would be almost aesthetically more pleasing to have it symmetrical with the house.
It's
Split the
kind of like the
difference.
teacher not offering extra credit when they don't need to. Okay.
Would there be an option to have that as an option in the special conditions, in the order of conditions, and then we could work it out with John Keeley and or Eileen with the details, and show a plan that shows what it might look like?
It's okay by me.
Yes, that's a good idea. It's okay with me too.
Bill,
Yeah, that would be fine.
Gail, you okay with it? Okay. All right, so I think we have a solution to that. So I have no further questions. Is there anyone in the audience for continued public hearing, 9 Cary Ave? Did I ask everybody? Bill, did I call on you for this?
I don't remember, but I have no other comments.
Indra, did I call on you?
Yes, you did, and I don't have any more comments.
Ed,
No, I didn't have any more comments.
Kent,
Nope, no other comments.
okay, anyone in the audience for this? I just want to make sure I don't overlook the commissioners. Okay, then I guess we can review the draft decision.
Okay, so Eileen will be sharing on the screen. We have shared it with the applicants and their representatives, so they have had a chance to review it. Project description, we've already sort of gone over. It's going to be a demolition and a new house with all the associated, driveway and grading and whatnot. The filing history is in the findings. The plan references. So on down to wetland values and areas subject to protection, the areas within the buffer zone to an isolated wetland. The wetland is isolated and the buffer zone is not regulated under the Mass Wetlands Protection Act or 310 CMR 10. There was no field evidence that the area floods, so it was not deemed to be isolated land subject to flooding. The application was filed under the Burlington bylaw only. Stormwater management conditions. So it's a single family house, so it's exempt from the Massachusetts stormwater standards, but it's not exempt from the Burlington stormwater standards. But they are infiltrating via the pavement, the permeable pavers, and the rooftop is going to lawn mostly, and also to the permeable pavement. So the commission finds that there's a net reduction actually in peak discharge rates. That's basically it for non-standard findings. And down to the decision is a proposed approval with the following conditions. And they're all fairly standard conditions. And as I said, they've had a chance to review these. Let's see, erosion control. They actually suggested an improvement on the erosion control they're doing. We had initially put in wattles, and they suggested compost tube filters. Let's see, down to the stormwater management conditions. Rooftop runoff shall be infiltrated on site as shown on the approved site plan. Porous pavers shall be used to construct the driveway. The porous paver driveway and walkway shall be managed as described in the O&M plan. Responsibility for the maintenance of that is up to the owner and future owners, and that'll be a perpetual condition. So condition 25 is regarding the demarcation fence. So we can maybe tweak that to address what we just discussed. 26 is regarding the plantings. As you can see, there's significant plantings proposed, and that some of those are beyond the demarcation fence, and that area beyond the demarcation fence shall be otherwise left naturally vegetated in perpetuity, as shall the wetland. That's condition 27. Condition 28 is regarding the bond of cash bond we're proposing $2,500. And standard condition about non-compliance and the conditions to get a certificate of compliance. And that's basically it. You're muted, Larry. Larry, you're muted.
All right, thank you. Anybody else have comments on the commission, from the commission on this?
Nope.
None.
Right. All right, hearing no further comment, could I have a motion to close the hearing for 9 Cary Avenue?
So move, Bill.
Second?
Second,
Yes.
Indra.
All right, Gail, how do you vote? Gail?
Sorry, yes.
Indra?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
All right, the chair votes yes by a vote of 500. The hearing is closed. Could I have a motion to adopt the findings? Is it all one document since it's only under the bylaw, the findings and the decision?
Correct.
Okay, could I have a motion to adopt the findings and permit conditions under Burlington bylaw Article 14 for the project at 9 Cary Ave?
Moved, Gail.
Moved it.
Second,
Second, Gail.
Gail? How do you vote?
Yes.
Indra?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
Chair votes yes by a vote of 500. The findings and permit conditions are approved under Burlington bylaw Article 14 for 9 Cary Ave. And is there a surety request?
Right, condition 28 was we were proposing a bond of $2,500, cash bond.
All right, could I have a motion to require the applicant to put a $2,500 cash security bond under Burlington bylaw Article 14 for the amount of $2,500 for 9 Cary Ave?
So move, Bill.
Second,
Second, Indra.
any discussion? All right, Gail, how do you vote?
Yes,
Indra,
Yes,
Bill,
Yes,
Ed?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. The applicant's required to post $2,500 security bond for 9 Cary Ave under Burlington bylaw Article 14. Okay, I think we are done. Is there anything else from the folks for 9 Cary Ave?
I don't think so. Thank you all very much for your time and attention to this tonight.
Well, and thank you for your time. You folks did a nice job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Say congratulations to Julia.
I will. She's back next week.
Okay. We're gonna skip down now to number 8, 9, and 10. I'd like to take all 3 of them. Number 8 is the continued public hearing, notice of intent for the Redmond Street Roadway, Somerset Realty Trust to construct a new road with a stream crossing. DEP file number 122-646. Number 9 is the continued public hearing, notice of intent for a residential lot for Redmond Street proposed by Somerset Realty Trust to construct a new single-family dwelling, DEP number 122-645. And number 10 is a continued public hearing, notice of intent for 5 Redmond Street, Somerset Realty Trust to construct a new single-family dwelling, DEP number 122-644. I assume folks are here for that one.
Yes, we are here this evening. I believe Phyllis Etzel is going to start us off. This is Mary Trudeau.
All right, good evening, Phyllis.
Good evening. This is Phyllis. Okay, I'd like to start off by saying that the planning board approved the subdivision plan on January 6th. The plans they approved were revised to show a 20-foot wide paved roadway as requested by the fire department, as well as a fully paved turnaround requested by the fire department. The wall is now going to be concrete. There were 2 conditions that require notes on the plan. So we will be revising those plans to show that that the subdivision is to create 2 buildable lots. And the other note is, let me see. One second.
could someone mute their thing, because there's a lot of background noise, please?
And the other note is that the remainder of Redmond shall be abandoned or discontinued, but that was changed to say that the applicant will deed the remaining portion of Redmond Street to the town of Burlington. And with that, I think I should give it to Mary, who can explain what we're doing with replication. And I believe there were changes to the wetlands since you last saw the plan. And David Romero is also present to answer any other questions. Thank you.
Okay, I think I'm just going to start where I think we left off. And that was that we had originally come before you with this notice of intent filing that proposed to alter somewhat less than 5,000 square feet of bordering vegetated wetlands. And we were asking the commission to consider the gift of a 1.7 acre parcel of land in lieu of replicated wetlands on this property. As you may recall, the commission had some issues with this. We went back and forth on it, but we have presented in this site plan now and given you a text that accompanied it. We've proposed just about 1-for-1 replication for the altered wetlands on the site, that we're altering about 4,700 square feet and we're proposing 4,800 square feet of replication. We have 2 distinct replication areas. Both of them are on lot 4. One is close to the junction of the existing street where the connection to the new cul-de-sac will be, and the other is at the far end of the cul-de-sac. This does reflect that there were alterations to two separate distinct wetland areas, one on either side of a watershed divide there. The replication areas, we've been talking a little bit back and forth about the construction sequence. And for the development of this site, the first task that has to take place from the developer's point of view after the installation of the erosion and sedimentation controls is the construction of the proposed cul-de-sac roadway, because that gives us access into the site. We have to take down trees and vegetation and do some clearing to let the cul-de-sac come in. And we feel that that would also be the opportune time to clear and grade the replication areas, so that this would be something that was happening as the roadway was being constructed prior to any work on either of the lots. We would hopefully have the grading of the replication areas set. Ideally, we think that the work on this cul-de-sac should be done during the driest part of the year, which is probably July or August, which would mean that we would have these replication areas prepared for a fall planting, which would be good, that we would get the plants in the ground at a time of year that's a little cooler, a little more water around, and that they would overwinter the first year when we were still actively working on the site. We still are proposing the gift of the 1.7 acre parcel that's located off of McSweeney Way and Somerset Street, I believe it is. And that if you consider the other land holdings that the town of Burlington has in this vicinity, plus the conservation restriction that Mr. Murray gave you for the house lot on McSweeney Way, the commission now has an aggregate of greater than 10 acres of open space in this locale as a result of existing holdings that the commission has, the existing conservation restriction, as well as now this 1.7 acre gift. Another change that we had on this site plan since we last spoke with you, as Phyllis noted, was that the planning board has asked us to do a 20-foot wide paved surface between the two concrete retaining walls on either side of the roadway. This didn't change our wetlands alterations in any significant way, because the construction of the retaining walls, which originally had been naysayed by the town engineering department, actually allows us to minimize the wetlands alteration on this site. This was something that John Keeley had pushed for us to consider these walls. There was some back and forth with the town engineering department, but in the end, we've decided, and everyone is in agreement, that this is the better solution to create these retaining walls and minimize the impact to the bordering vegetated wetlands on the site. David, do you want to talk about the stormwater management system and the switch between the storm scepter unit and the previously proposed units? David, I think your sound is off.
Sorry about that. So yeah, the drainage system is essentially the same as the original design. We have two catch basins that are going to collect the stormwater off the pavement, as well as the driveways, and then convey that stormwater through a water quality unit, which is going to be a storm scepter in the circle. And then that water is going to go to an underground infiltration system that you see up on number 5 within an easement. And that will take care, again, infiltrate up to the 100-year storm for all the paved areas on site. That would also include the roof on number 5, although the roof of number 4 will have its own dry wells on site. And we do indicate all our groundwater elevations. One thing people were concerned about with our basements would be out of the groundwater. They're 2 feet above groundwater, as is our infiltration system. And I think that's it. Again, it's pretty much the same as it was in the beginning. As Mary said, we did try to minimize the pavement even more, but the town did require us to go back to 20 feet. So we did minimize everything as much as we could, including the width of the disturbed area across the wetland. And we were able to do that with the retaining walls, and that's what you see on the plan. I think that's it.
Okay, John and Eileen, it's been a while since we've seen this. Do you feel all of our original questions were answered?
Excuse me, John, can you please, I don't know if you can tell, can you mute everybody? Because I'm hearing a radio, a TV, somebody talking, and it's kind of distracting.
Okay, so I muted everybody. I'm not sure who that was. So I'm sorry, what was the question again, Larry?
It's been a long time since we've seen this project. Do you
Okay.
feel that all the concerns of the commission originally expressed have been addressed, or is there some questions we still have?
I think they've been addressed, so I'll just quickly recap. So this was filed as a limited project under the Wetland Regulations, which allows performance standards not to be strictly met if an applicant is trying to reach an upland area and needs to cross a wetland area to get there. And in that case, you could actually permit over 5,000 square feet of wetland filling under a limited project. In this case, they're just under 5,000. But this clearly does qualify as a limited project. Initially, I had questions about whether or not it was a limited project because I thought potentially they could access the site without going through wetlands by coming down Raymond Road Raymond Road. And it turns out that was not the case. They would have gone through wetlands and also through our locally regulated riverfront area if they had come in that way. Plus, they would have had to do a lot more grading. So it's a limited project. Under the Wetlands Protection Act, they have to replicate 1-to-1, or they would have to do a 401 water quality certification. So the commission is requiring under the Wetlands Protection Act, the 1-to-1 replication. The bylaw, our wetland bylaw requires 2-to-1 replication. So in lieu of that, the applicant is asking that you waive the 2-to-1 requirement and stick with a 1-to-1 and take the land donation of the land that directly abuts existing conservation land. I would like to correct one thing Mary said. The conservation restriction on the McSweeney Way parcel has not been finalized. And that project hasn't been constructed yet. I assume they'll finalize that once they actually start getting ready to build that lot. Other than that, the replication areas, the larger of the two replication areas I would say has a high probability of success because I think it's probably historically filled wetland. They're basically taking a lot of fill out of an area that adjacent property owners had dumped in what was probably a wetland or right at the edge of a wetland. I think that's about it. The stormwater system will be requiring a homeowners association for the infiltration system, and then eventually the town would be accepting the roadway and maintaining the storm scepter and the catch basins. The wetland crossing meets the stormwater, the stream crossing standards. It's an open box culvert, so there's no bottom on it. So it meets the standards for stream crossings. I think that's about it.
Okay. Thank you, John. John, do you have any concerns that need further discussion?
I do not.
All right. Okay, so let's go through the commission and maybe some of the questions from the commission, maybe a little bit of a repeat because it's been so long, but we'll see where this goes. Gail?
I guess first I'd just like some clarification from something John said about limited projects crossing wetland or resource areas to get to, did you say a significant upland area?
No, you could do a limited project for a driveway for a single family house.
Okay, but it's the idea of crossing a wetland to an upland.
Right. If that's the only way you can access it, right?
Is there
And you
any
have-
requirement of how big the wetland is, or how big that crossing is, or how big an area the upland is?
No, not in the regulations. No,
Okay, and this again is the DEP regulations, but not in our bylaw?
correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so, the proposed land that they're donating, so that's actually, if I looked at the map right, that's separated by a street, right, from the other conservation land that's there, correct? It's like a parcel that's bounded by a street.
Not a real street. It's
Oh,
a paper
it's a
street.
paper street, okay.
Yeah.
And does that, and it doesn't have any type of, it's not continuous anyway, or is it with any of the wetland that's surrounds this property? Is there any kind of, drainage or anything that, or flow that goes from there? I actually not quite sure where it is.
So all of this project flows to the west, I guess it is, towards Sandy Brook.
Uh-huh.
These wetlands on this property would flow towards that donated parcel.
Okay, so they all
Yeah.
flow that way. All right, okay.
Yeah.
Let's see my notes here. Give me 1 second. Actually, I have some notes that I just want to look over. So, can we move on and then I'll come back? Is that okay? I just
It's
want to take up time
certainly
trying to
okay.
read my notes that I made today. Okay.
Gail, I'd like to follow up on something you said about the limited project. John, who determined that this was qualified to be a limited project?
Well, it's the Conservation Commission's call. I mean, they've applied for a limited project, and part of your order of conditions would be making the determination that it is.
And
But-
your recommendation is that it is.
Correct. But once again, were it not a limited project, since they're under 5,000 square feet and they're replicating 1-to-1, this would be a permittable project, whether it were a limited project or not.
Okay, thank you. That answers the question, I think. Okay, we'll go back to Gail in a few minutes. Indra,
No, I don't have anything right now.
Bill. Want me to pass you, Bill?
So I'm gonna ask a couple
Then we'll go
questions
back to you.
I'm gonna ask just a couple questions at this point, and then I'll come back later.
Okay.
The property of the abutter that had the intruding fill, that fill is gonna be removed and what, a retaining wall put in there? Are you gonna answer that?
Is that on the large replication area? Is that what we're referring to?
Yes.
Yeah, the abutter that is currently on Redmond, that had, you put fill into this property. Yeah, right along there.
Yeah, we'll grade that out. We'll grade that out the best we can. And if we do have to put some sort of retaining wall on there, I guess we will, but we'll do that when Mary can give us the recommendations that when we actually build that replication area.
Okay, but you may be able to do it without a retaining wall, you're saying, perhaps?
Yeah.
Okay. Another question I have regards the other replication area. Will number 4 Redmond be outside of the no-build zone? Will it be 40 feet from that, once that's put in? Doesn't look like it on the map, if I'm using my rulers correctly.
No, I think it is that you're talking about the house itself, the structure.
Yeah, the structure.
Yeah, I think that's the 40-foot.
Because the line that's shown is the 40-foot before the replication, and then it seems like the replication would then bump that out, and the house would be within the no-build zone.
Yeah, it might be close there. Yeah. I don't have a scale. I'm sorry, I didn't scale that.
Yeah.
One thing we do have flexibility to move the house if we have to. The house is not, it's not fixed there. If we have to move it back either way, adjust it, we can.
Yeah, there is some.
We do have room the other way to the 40-foot line. We have room there. If we
That's
do
what I
have
was
to move
looking
it
at.
back.
And I guess that was a question that I had with, even
Yeah.
though it's a replicated wetland, we still would have the same 20-foot no disturb and
Yeah,
40.
I'm really not even sure what the policy is on that. I guess if it's going to be a future wetland, I guess you'd have a new 40-foot no
Yeah, that's my
disturb, but
question.
I'm not sure.
I'm questioning whether that would be the policy. John, do you know what the answer to be with that?
I don't think the regulations really address that.
I mean, a wetland is a wetland, whether it's man-made or not, and
Right.
it should still have a boundary. After it's created, it would have a boundary for new construction, and it's being
Right.
built before the house is being built. So, to me, we should try to make sure that the house is outside of it if we can.
Well, I don't have a scale or a plan. I just have the computer. David, do you have can you scale it off now?
Yeah, I don't, unfortunately, I really don't, and
Okay.
but I will check that first thing. Looks like it's going to be close, yeah.
So if they can't keep it outside the new replication area outside the 40-foot no build, is that what you're saying, Bill?
Yeah, the house should not be within the 40-foot no build of the completed new replication areas if it's possible. Otherwise, they'll have to request a waiver.
So if they do find in the field that that has to be the case, how would this be handled? Would they need to come back for a waiver request?
If I could just interrupt for a second, I think we have two design options that can be handled just as a minor modification. That we could either shift the house slightly towards the larger wetland system on the left-hand side of the plan, or we could reshape the replicated area to create the 40-foot. I think it would be a reasonable condition to say that the house on lot 4 should be 40 feet from the edge of the replication area.
Okay.
And handle it that way, because we have options to make that possible.
That
Right,
sounds-
we do have room to move the house if we have to, and we could reshape that wetland replication area, yes.
Okay.
Mary, I like your suggestion for the condition. Okay, thank you. All right, Bill, are you okay for now? I'll be going around again anyway.
I'm okay for now, yes.
All right, next we have Ed. Ed, are you still on?
Hold here. Yeah, I'm sorry. No, I don't have anything right now. There was one question that I'm just trying to find it here that goes way back, but I'll see if I can find it.
All right, Kent, do you have anything more on this one?
None.
What was that?
Oh, nothing to add.
Okay, all right. All right, so I had a few things to go over. There was a question. I'm not sure it's totally relevant to natural resource protection, but there was a question on my notes. Somebody mentioned something about a question about waterproofing and sump pumps in the houses. Was that ever addressed one way or another? And is there a sump pump discharge somewhere in this plan?
We don't show sump pumps on our plan. I know somebody asked about the groundwater, so we did set the basements 2 feet above groundwater.
Okay,
And we normally do put a foundation drain, not necessarily sump pumps though, but that's pretty typical to have foundation drains.
That was my concern. That was my concern. And the reason for that is, I know you're saying you believe you're above the groundwater.
Yeah.
I don't understand still how the wetlands, especially in the area where the larger replication area, that area of the wetlands, they're showing the wetlands at elevations of 140 to 148 feet. And the basements of your houses are at 142 and 144. I just don't see how they cannot be within the water. And those elevations for the wetlands are the elevations of the basin of the wetland. I mean, that's not when they're full of water. It's not the water level, the high water mark. It's the low water mark when they're dry. I mean, that's what the elevation is. So, in a heavy rain or when the wetlands are doing their function of acting as a sponge and soaking up water, I don't see how the basements of those floors are not gonna be below water. The floors of those basements are not gonna be below water. I'm sorry, I just don't believe it. So that's why I was surprised that you weren't even considering sump pumps. I mean, you gotta pump up to get the sewage out. You need a sewage pump, but not even a sump pump. Didn't make sense to me.
Given that logic, would you consider installing, would you consider it prudent now to the applicant to install sump pumps in the homes?
Well, I'm not sure the commission wants to make it a condition or how, I'm not sure how Mr. Murray will want to build the house, if he wants to put sump pumps in. He may, maybe Phyllis has a better view on that. What do you think, Phyllis?
Phyllis, you're muted.
He doesn't believe that sump pumps are necessary. He would not want to put one on the plan. I can check with him. I can check with him now, but he does not believe it's necessary. If it were to become necessary, then he would do it. But I don't believe he wants to put it on the plan or have it as a condition. It's not really, I don't know that it's part of the conservation's purview to request a sump pump in the house.
And Phyllis, I agree with you. It's not real. That's something we normally would require. It was only a note that it was discussed here at a meeting,
Yeah.
and somebody, apparently Bill, discussed it, so I brought it up.
Yeah, when a house is built, there are certain there's a certain length of time that the builder is responsible for particular items. If there are problems, and if he would be, of course, he'd be obligated and always willing to address them. He does not believe it's necessary, nor that it should be a condition on an order of conditions that a sump pump be put in. Where we've looked at the plan, we've had the engineer look at it. We've raised the basement floor elevations. We don't believe there will be water in the basements.
Okay, thank you for that
Larry,
response.
Larry, can I just chime in here? As staff, we're proposing to submit along with the planning board, a bylaw for Maytown meeting, a zoning bylaw requiring that basement floors be 2 feet above the water table. And these guys are aware of our discussions and because it came up during the planning board hearings. So David did test pits. I mean, that's what we would require under the new bylaw. He's a soil evaluator. He did test pits at the locations of the basements and located the basements 2 feet above the water table. So that's exactly what we would be looking for under the new bylaw.
All right, thank you, John, for that clarification. Okay, let's move on. Okay. Do your plans, David, include roping off the infiltration area before it is constructed so it doesn't get compacted?
Yeah, the infiltration system, yeah. So that's one of the first things we'll do is we'll clear that area off and then we'll just install the chambers there. And we will keep that so that there'll be no heavy equipment go over that. They can easily do that. Those chambers can be put in by hand and we'll only need heavy equipment to put the stone down. And once that's done, it's going to be pretty safe.
Okay, and just to clarify, the 401 water quality certification is not required for the project now, is that correct?
I'll defer to Mary. I don't think it is.
I don't believe so.
Okay. Okay, and
We couldn't hear you.
Me? Or I said no.
No, I saw Mary Trudeau
I,
speak. didn't-
I was saying no as well, that if we keep our alteration of bordering vegetated wetland under 5,000 square feet, we don't need an individual 401 water quality certification. It's just implied.
That's what I thought. Okay, thank you, Mary. Okay, what is required, or how often what is required and how often would you expect maintenance of the infiltration system? The roadway goes into the infiltration area, is that correct? And how often would some maintenance be required and what would that consist of?
We're proposing that the drainage system gets, the catch basins, the water quality systems would all be inspected regularly. Catch basins would be cleaned out, I think, 4 times a year. The storm scepter, I think, twice a year. And then the infiltration system would just be checked through the inspection ports. But I don't expect with all those chambers and water quality units, I don't expect it would have very much of a problem with silt net system. But it will be inspected regularly.
And
If it gets-
David, I thought you said that the town was taking over responsibility for something that I'm just a little confused.
Oh, I said that when the roadway is accepted, the town will be maintaining everything in the roadway, the catch basin, the storm scepter.
Right.
And can I don't know how to ask this, but they're specifying a certain frequency. Would the town commit to inspect those things at that frequency, John? I mean,
I don't think anybody here at this meeting can commit to that, but
so how can they say that this is what's going to happen?
well, they're presenting an O&M plan. It's up to the town to follow it.
Okay.
The town will not be taking over maintenance of the infiltration chamber though, right?
That's correct, yeah.
That will be a homeowners association.
So, all right, so to me, that's a gray area that it's actually going to happen for the things in the road at the frequency they're citing. Because no one here can commit to that. But for the infiltration, that's the responsibility of a 2 residents homeowners association. So
That's correct.
what assurance is there that that homeowners association will have sufficient resources to do what needs to be done? How is that something like that handled?
Well, may I speak on that?
Of course.
As far as when the homeowners association is established, there are bylaws, and usually an account is set up. It's made perhaps similar to a condo association, and a fund is put in. Actually, the planning board is requiring that that we fund the maintenance for 5 years subsequent to the planning board closing out the subdivision. So so that will at least there'll be money that we will put in initially, and then after that, within the bylaws, there's usually some some conditions where each of the homeowners contribute a certain amount of funds in order to pay for the maintenance.
So let me ask you, are you folks, because of the planning board decision, is Murray capitalizing the homeowners association fund, or he's just committing to doing the maintenance as needed?
No, he's not committing to do the maintenance. He's committing to funding the maintenance. The homeowners, after he will be maintaining the drainage system in the roadway and the infiltrator on lot 5 until the subdivision is closed.
Right.
And after it's closed, or prior to it, at some point before it's closed, he will he will put into the homeowners association's account certain amount of monies in order for them to pay for the maintenance. They will be responsible, and we're responsible to make sure they understand the operation and maintenance manual. And we'll probably tell them who we normally use to maintain our systems so that they can use that person if they want, or that company if they want. And then they will pay them from that fund. After the 5 years, they will be responsible to be putting money into the fund and call, and continue to call to set up the inspections and cleaning.
And the bylaws of the homeowners association would require them to do special
Yes.
inspections.
Yes.
Okay, all right, I get it. Oh, so sort of,
And we're required to, we're required to make sure, I mean, these documents are recorded and they're noted on their deeds. But in addition to that, we're required to explain to them what their responsibilities are. We've just run into that with the 3 Lexington Street subdivision, where I told the person who's in charge in that subdivision, who we use to maintain the drainage. Actually, we've maintained it up until now, and then I believe they're gonna take over now. And I gave them the name of the company, and they're now, from now on, they'll be calling to have the maintenance done that's required for that drainage system.
is there anything that you or the town requires them to put a contract in place when it turns over to them? Is there anything from either you folks or from the town's point of view, planning board or conservation, that requires them to, the homeowners, to put a contract in place? Or,
Well, that's interesting, because I was reading the proposed conditions, and it did mention a contract, and we usually don't have a contract. It's usually, we know that it needs to be done a certain number of times a year, and we call, and they come out and they do the work. We know, they tell us how much it's going to cost, and they come out and they do the work. And but then, of course, we have an invoice that explains what they did and how they disposed of the materials
okay,
after cleaning the catch basins. But we don't have a contract, with, and I don't know if they normally write up contracts for that.
Correct.
Maybe the really large companies do, but
it's like a
we
service
don't.
on demand. It's a service on demand, as you're saying.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
All right,
Larry, can I just point out, so, I mean, the town has an MS4 permit now, which requires the town to regularly maintain catch basins and the storm scepters that are in the right of way. So if the town meets its MS4 requirements, the infiltrator probably will not actually need cleaning. It certainly needs inspection, but it shouldn't need cleaning that often with a storm scepter preceding it.
okay, thank you for that input. Okay, so, are you, does the replacement area have an unrestricted hydraulic connection to the wetland area in question?
Yes, if you recall, we had not only an ongoing debate, but we had a second opinion on whether the wetland was one system or 2 systems.
Yes.
And we had LEC come out, and then John moderated, and we have shown the wetlands as 2 separate systems. And I had mentioned a little bit earlier that we have 2 separate replication areas, and that does reflect that there are 2 different accommodations that need to be made. That on the, I guess it would be like the north end of the site, we have an alteration of 261 square feet of bordering vegetated wetlands, and we have a replication area that's on the same hydraulic reach as the area that is lost. The bulk of the alteration and the larger replication area are located on the south side of the wetland system, and again, they are on the same hydraulic reach.
So if they're in the two different wetland systems, you're saying?
Yeah, there's a watershed line and water flows in one direction from one side of the wetland into the other side from the other.
So is the replacement area equal to the lost area for each wetland?
I think that it is a slightly off, that there's a little bit more replication on the north side of the site than the wetlands that are lost on the north side of the site.
Okay.
And some of that is that it's not really feasible to create a 200 or 300 square foot wetlands replication area. The systems do better if you can incorporate a better hydrology, which is more edge area and more contact with the wetland system. So that we created a system that was not only mitigating, but that it also was feasible and had a large likelihood of being successful.
Okay. All right, John, so you don't have anything you've heard, you don't have any issue with any of this, do you?
No, both wetland areas all flow in the same direction towards Sandy Brook anyway.
Okay. All right, thank you. Okay, that's fine. And okay, so I'm satisfied on that. Let's talk about the the 1.7 acre area donation. I've looked at it. It is continuous with an 8.1 acre because the paper street in between is forested. I'll say for the record that I think it is a valuable donation. And you're asking us to accept that donation in lieu of our requirements of a 2-to-1 replication, is that correct?
Yes,
That's
under your
correct.
bylaw.
Okay, I like it. I'll just say, just for speaking for myself, I like it a lot. I think it's a significant contribution. And the 0.9 acres across Somerset Street, is Somerset Street between the parcel you're offering and Somerset and then the 0.9 acres, is that the McSweeney Way thing?
Yes, it is. Actually, McSweeney Way from Bedford Street is approximately 250 to 300 feet. Then the remaining roadway, which is not developed, is Somerset Street.
And so that's forested as well, essentially.
That's forested as well.
Okay.
So the area between the parcel we're going to donate and the conservation restriction is forested also.
Okay, when you look at it that way, I think that makes the donation, everything contiguous, connected by forest and materials across paper streets. I think it's very significant. Now, is there a possibility that Murray would explore whether it's feasible? Now, maybe John will say it's not feasible to put in some kind of a walking trail that you could go down McSweeney Way and possibly get into a walking trail that would enter the 0.9 acres and then go over to the 1.7 you're donating and into the 8.1. Is it possible Mr. Murray would how should I put it? I explore the possibility of whether that could be done. And maybe, I don't know, maybe even help us do something like that if it is feasible. I'm not sure it is because there's a lot of wetlands there. So, I mean, I don't even know how to ask the question, Phyllis.
I know. I don't know if it's feasible. I haven't been in there myself.
I think that one way to determine whether it was feasible would be to ask the surveyors to cut a line down Somerset Road, and that would let us look at the ground below and see, is it a wetland or an upland path possibility? And then the commission could decide what they wanted to do. That I think the cutting is a temporary impact, but it would give us an exact location for where Somerset Street is and an idea of whether the town could put a little path in through there.
How does the commission feel about this? I think it would be nice to have access personally, if it's
So I
possible.
just want to ask John a question. The 8.1 acre conservation land, am I wrong that that's largely wet or?
Correct. Most of it's wet, and I think and floodplain as well.
Yeah, so I think, there's a reason why there hasn't been these isolated areas that we have around town where there's no trails. They're largely areas that are wet that, we're protecting the wetlands.
Well, here's the thing. What I'd like to ask is if Murray would take a look and tell us whether it's feasible. I'm not necessarily asking them, but if they say, I think if you went this way, and this way, there's some dry land that could possibly be a path.
Yeah, I guess that, I wouldn't want somebody going through and cutting trees down to determine that. I think
Right.
that's how I feel about that.
Okay, there are a lot of briars. It's difficult to walk in there without cutting. In fact, even the area that's going to be conservation restriction was pretty difficult to walk through. Mary might know because I think she did go in there.
Yeah, I don't think you'd need to cut trees per se. That typically when the surveyors cut a line through, they go in with a machete and they just cut out the brush and the prickers and the vines. And at least you can see which way it goes. I don't see that there'd be any reason to take down a tree because you could just go around it. I just think that because of the density of the vegetation there, I can't give you even an educated guess about whether a path could happen there until a line was cut.
Now, if you were talking about a path, would you be talking about a 6-foot wide path with maybe a gravel base? Because there's a lot of wetlands in there.
I would say no to all that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I thought I'd raise the issue to see if we made any progress on it. I'm not sure we did, but
I do want to say the remaining Redmond Street, we're donating to the town. We're going to give that to the town. I don't even know what the Redmond Street looks like beyond that junction of Redmond Street and Raymond Road. I don't know what Raymond Road looks like in there. I know that if you look at the wetland maps, the old wetland maps that show zoned wetlands, they show zoned wetlands in there over that portion of Raymond Road. So I'm assuming that it's wet also.
I'm not sure it's wet, but it's definitely heavily vegetated, and there are probably some scattered wet areas through that whole area too.
all right. So probably that's enough discussion. I think if you folks can spot something that you think might be a possible trail, would you let us know? I'm not asking you folks to do
course.
it.
Yeah.
Okay, so that, just keep it in mind that it would be nice if we had something that worked.
Okay, and I'll speak with Mr. Murray about that.
Okay, I appreciate that if you'd make a note.
Yeah.
Okay, and let's see. I think that's all I have. So let's go back before we see if there's anyone in the audience. Let me go back to Gail. Is there anything further from you?
Yep, I have a couple of questions. So, I was just looking at some of the standards that's required for replication. And so, can you confirm that, in terms of, we have the kind of square footage and so forth, that the the surface elevation, groundwater and surface elevation, that those will be the same as the original?
Yes, they're substantially the same. We're working within very close proximity of the areas of alteration.
Okay, and then when I'm looking at the site, so I'm trying to determine what the property lines are of these new homes. Is the kind of dash line, the kind of larger dash line, is that a property line or that goes
No, I
around?
think that's the erosion control barrier.
Okay, right. Okay, so what is the property line for 4 and 5?
4 is the entire rectangle below the cul-de-sac, and including both replication areas.
Okay, so that's the one I'm looking at. That's the line I'm talking about, actually. So I'm a little concerned about that, especially the one that's close to number 4. Are you proposing any any fencing or something in that wetland alteration that's just going to be 40 feet from the house so that remains protected and that seeing these people are mostly surrounded by wetland, that they don't start doing what other people have done and fill it in and, extend the lawn or put a pool out there, or whatever they do.
I think
So,
we normally put a fence at the 20 foot, no disturb.
yeah,
And I
so,
don't know if that,
so in this case, that you do that on, around that replicated area that you're putting in, that smaller wetland.
You could do that, do it 20 feet off the edge of the replicated area.
Okay. Let's see. So in your report, you talked about that the replication areas will be inspected routinely. So you mean you do that like several times in the 2-year period? Is that the idea?
Usually you do them spring and fall, one in the spring to see how the plants overwintered, and then in the fall again to see did they survive the summer. And that gives you 2 opportunities during the year where you have the potential to replant or replace if you find plant materials have died.
So you said you'd be planting in the fall, right? I think.
I think ideally you would plant in the fall. I think that plants going in late in the season or dormant is a very successful way to capture the entire spring wet season.
Okay. And then let's see, what else did I have here? So for the culvert, is that something that the town also is supposed to be maintaining?
Yes, that was the reason that we had the discussion about the retaining walls too.
Okay.
That we feel that it's a very solid structure in addition to minimizing the wetlands alteration, so that the retaining walls ultimately would be under the care and control of your DPW if the roadway is accepted.
And is the change that you talked about for the planning board and the width of the road and the turnaround at the cul-de-sac, is that change that where you're, going to have to intrude on the wetland, did that cause your replication to increase?
No, it did not, as far as I know, no.
So what is then, so you mean, I was going off the plans that we had, so what is the actual total wetland that's going to be?
there is a table on the north, on the plans. And it
So
shows,
that,
there
the
is
one that you
there's a
sent that
table on
reflects the planning board's changes?
Yes,
that
Okay,
that
all right,
reflects
okay.
all the changes. That's up to date, yeah.
All right, that's fine. All right,
That
that's
table
what I
shows
have for now. That's all I have.
All right, Indra, anything on this one further?
So the retaining wall would be concrete, right?
Yeah, it's concrete wall, yes.
And
Engineering
the
required to be concrete, as well as the culvert will also be concrete.
concrete. So just to make sure, like the total replication area is equal to, minimum equal to the disturbed area, right?
Yes, the
That-
replication area
it's actually slightly larger.
it's a little bit more, yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to be sure that Yes, I also agree with Larry that the donation of that 1.7 acre is significant.
Okay, Ed, anything further?
Well, I found what I had a question on, and Gail just caught it, because my biggest concern was the culvert itself with a 2-foot 6-inch opening, that I look at debris coming down there, especially where it's a natural bed going under it. But I think you pretty much covered it, that it's gonna be maintained by DPW.
Okay. Kent, anything further?
Yep, everything covered.
All right, Bill, anything further?
No, I understand the project as it's presented. I'll have some other comments when it comes time to vote.
Okay. All right, John or Eileen, do you have anything further? And is there any waiver requests that need to be voted on?
So I don't have anything further. I think it's unclear whether or not you need to vote on a waiver for the 40-foot no disturb on lot 5 at this point. And you, oh, and yeah, and you would actually have to formally vote to waive the 2-to-1 replication.
Yes, that is definitely we have to do.
Right.
And if there was anything that came up, they might consider submitting it as a minor engineering change if that was the case. I guess.
If we were not able to make the 40-foot setback on lot 4 from the edge of the replication area, we would come back to you, but we're pretty confident that we can make that design change.
All right, is there anyone in the audience who would like to make some comments on this project? It's been on the docket for a long time. I'm not sure if there's anyone in the audience online that's in a butter or otherwise that would like to state any comments. Anyone in the audience that would like to state a comment? I guess I'm hearing nothing. All right. All right. So with that, I guess we have 3 different sets of findings, 3 different sets of conditions, permit conditions. John or Aileen, one of you going to do that task for us?
John did a lot of
So-
talking earlier, so I offered to just.
Yeah, so let me just ask a question first. Do you want to resolve the 40-foot setback on lot 5?
I think it's lot 4.
Lot
4, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Right,
number
4.
I mean, can we just say we're gonna put the house 40 feet off the new wetlands? It
I
may
had
be
just put this
slight
in here
adjustment.
as a
I
placeholder
don't know
while
if we
we
can
were
do that
talking.
now.
I had just put a condition in here as a placeholder. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Are you seeing what I'm seeing? I had just put one in
Yep.
about the house must be 40 feet or more from the replicated wetland, either by reshaping the wetland or by moving the house, or just some wording like that that we could massage.
Okay,
Okay.
That's good.
I think that covers it.
that'll do it.
Okay, well, okay, I wasn't going to start with this, but I was going to start with the roadway and then just.
All right. I will be stepping away for about 1 minute, but please continue.
Okay, as I said, John did a lot of talking, so I offered to go through this. So I'm thinking I'll spend a little bit more time on the roadway, and then a lot of it's repeated in the other 2, so we'll just fly through those. Is that okay? So as we all have described, the project is just, the project description here is as we just discussed this evening with the 1.7 acre lot in lieu of the 2.1 replication. This is all the filing history. This is the many various plans and other documents that were provided. Since as a subdivision with only 2 lots, this project is exempt from the DEP stormwater standards, but is subject to them under the bylaws, and the commission finds that the project meets or exceeds the standards outlined in the stormwater management regulations, and here are the 10 standards. Other findings is that the roadway will require a stream crossing that will meet the Massachusetts stream crossing standards with a concrete open bottom culvert. Will be 4,448 square feet of filling and 348 square feet of temporary replication and of temporary alteration, replication of 4,845 square feet of wetland on site will be supplemented by donation of 1.5 acres to the town of Burlington. The commission granted or will vote on a waiver of the bylaw to replicate wetlands at a 2-to-1 ratio, finding that the donation of a 1.7 acre parcel to the town provides wetlands without altering existing upland. And the calculations demonstrate a reduction in peak discharges for all storm events. This goes through some of the standard conditions about erosion controls, and it refers to the order of conditions, in which there are 68 conditions. We're proposing a bond in the amount of $15,000 for the roadway, and the rest of these are as standard. I'm hoping I can just switch between these without losing you guys. Can you now see the order of conditions? Okay, good. So again, these are the same listed plans. If there was anything amiss, I'm sure Phyllis or somebody would have told me now. These are all standard. The pre-construction conditions are as standard. Erosion controls, also standards. The only thing that we added was that, oh, maybe it's not here. We had asked for the rail line to be extended to the property lines in each. Oh, sorry, that's for the houses. That's why it's not here. Construction entrances not less than 50 feet long or 30 feet wide of crushed stone will be installed. Pollution control, most of these are standard. Material that's been dumped in or accumulated in the wetlands shall be excavated by hand and the material placed in dumpsters. The rest of these are also standard. No rock salt should be used on paved surfaces. No pesticides, herbicides, or fungicides within 100 feet of wetlands. That'll be on the certificate of compliance as well. We are asking that a PE or wetland scientist submit a weekly written report to the conservation during construction. Particular attention is required for installation of the drainage components, which must be witnessed by a PE. Installation of all drainage structures, including the infiltration system, witnessed by a PE. I think that sounds like we just repeated that one. This addresses one of Larry's concerns to avoid compaction. The use of machinery is prohibited within the infiltration areas, and these areas shall be roped off to keep vehicles out. Homeowners Association shall be formed before an application for a certificate of compliance is submitted. The Homeowners Association shall be responsible for maintenance of the stormwater infiltration system on Lot 5 and for maintenance of the stormwater management system associated with the roadway until the roadway is accepted, at which time responsibility shall revert to the town. Application shall submit an updated operations and maintenance plan that will reflect the extent and duration of the responsibilities of the Homeowners Association, just to make that 100% clear who's doing what at what time. And that O&M plan shall be recorded at the Registry of Deeds. The next conditions are about the wetland replication. Construction and planting shall be overseen by a wetland scientist, and I assume that will be Mary. No invasive species shall be planted. Application areas shall be excavated and planted in accordance with the reference narrative, which was produced by Mary. And those areas shall be left naturally vegetated, and this shall be noted in the certificate of compliance. No operation of heavy machinery in the wetlands. A report documenting the health and vigor of the wetland replication and restoration areas shall be submitted by a wetland scientist after each growing season for at least 2 years following the project. Lot 2976 shall be deeded to the new and subsequent owners of 5 Redmond Street. There shall be no future filling of either 4 Redmond Street or 5 Redmond Street. The condition shall be noted in the certificate of compliance as existing in perpetuity. And these are all the conditions about how you get your COC. I will run over to the below for article, sorry, for number 4, lot class number 4. Again, this is all the list of public hearings. And in this case, it was filed for construction of new single-family residence, including lot clearing. Same plan and references are here as were in the previous one for the roadway. As part of a two-lot subdivision, it's also exempt from the MA's stormwater standards. This is the same as before. Other findings are that the roadway construction will require wetland filling that will be replicated on this parcel. 4845 square feet. This permit under the Burlington Wetland Protection Bylaw may also serve as a permit under the Burlington's Erosion and Sedimentation Control Bylaw. And in this case, we are proposing a bond of $5,000 for this location. And then the order of conditions, we sweep up to this. And we went through a lot of these, and again, they're standard and they're repeated. So I'll just touch on the ones that are maybe different. This is where it says that erosion controls must extend to the property lines. No dewatering permitted on this site, and if dewatering occurs, they'll need to get a plan approved. Again, it's the same repetition about the weekly inspection report, or the bond could be forfeited. Again, we mentioned about the homeowners association will be responsible for the infiltration on lot 5 and responsible for the maintenance of the stormwater system, etc. Wetland replication, most of which is also repeated. And in this case, this is where I slotted in wording or something like this wording about the house must be 40 feet or more from the replicated wetland, either by reshaping the wetland or moving the house. And let's see. In this case, a post and rail fence or other approved fence shall be erected at the approved erosion control boundary across 4 Redmond Street to protect the resource areas as shown on approved plan, with fences in concrete with no gates, and this demarcation shall be maintained in perpetuity and noted on certificate of compliance. That was one of the things that Gail was concerned about. Areas behind the demarcation fence shall be left as naturally vegetated, and this shall be noted in the COC. A sign shall be installed on metal posts on each lot along the rear section, indicating that the area is a protected wetland, and there shall be no future wetland filling permitted on this parcel. And these are the standard certificate of compliance conditions. We're 2/3 of the way through. Okay, the bylaw for lot 5 is again going to be almost the same. In this case, we say the infiltration system for the subdivision is located on this lot, but will be maintained by a homeowners association with the owners of number 4 Redmond. And again, we're proposing a bond in the amount of $5,000. And the order of conditions is, again, largely a repeat because these are all, it's all in the same subdivision. Is anything different here that we need to point out? Melissa and Mary and everybody have seen these earlier today. We had mentioned the operations and maintenance plan and how maintenance plan and how it needs to be updated just to reflect the extent and duration of the responsibilities for clarity. And again, a post and rail fence must be erected at the approved erosion control boundary across number 5 to protect the resource areas. And no disturbance is allowed beyond the fence, and they also have to erect a sign on metal posts. And lot 2976 shall be deeded to the new and subsequent owners of 5 Redmond Street. And again, certificate of compliance conditions.
So Eileen, you sort of skipped over there was a condition about roping off the infiltration area. That Larry had raised that. There was a condition there that you just sort of went by, but that was in there.
I thought I mentioned it on the first one, on the roadway. What is it in here? Sorry,
Right, it's on that lot. It's on that lot as well because that, yeah.
I'll just share it and we'll scroll up to just so we can confirm it's actually there. Sorry, I was getting carried away. Get through it, obviously. You see it with the roped areas because it does need to be in here. You're right. It's not. Drainage. Oh, it is. It is. Number 56. To avoid compaction, the use of machinery is prohibited within the infiltration areas, and these areas shall be roped off to keep vehicles out. Sorry for skipping over that one. John is right. That's very important.
Okay, Eileen, are you done with these? Third review?
Do you want me to start them again? Yes, I'm done.
Okay. All right, so let me ask, is there anyone in the commission? Gail or Indra, do you have any comments on the conditions of the findings?
Yes, I just have a question. Eileen, was there anything in there for the roadway about having a signage that said no salt? Just because it would be different from the rest of the road as the truck is coming down?
There is a reference to salt. Let me see whether it actually says signage. I don't remember we mentioned.
I thought it was.
Did,
Should that be different from the rest of the road since the whole road flows right down into that cul-de-sac and into the wetland?
Good point.
well, it does say here, no rock salt shall be used on paved surfaces. Other than
Right, but I guess, you know, in other areas where you have I mean, I think Bill has a good point, but if, I don't know what the case is for the rest of the road, but if for some reason this new, you know, section is deemed that is different and that there is no salt there, you typically see a sign where it's kind of a, you know, an area that's different from someplace else. Because otherwise, I think, you know, the guy who's doing the salt is just gonna keep on going and turn around.
want me to add this in? A sign shall be installed or shall be erected.
Hmm.
You know, or a no salting sign shall be something like this right here. Oh my God!
Should they say something like, you know, sensitive area, no salt or something like that?
Okay. Oh, apparently I can't even type it.
I have another question. So, because it says, you know, no pesticides, herbicides, all that kind of stuff. So does that mean that, you know, if the, you know, town contracts to have mosquito spraying, they're not going to be spraying down here? That's what the should mean.
I mean, I'm not sure we can override the Board of Health.
Yeah, I'm not sure what week.
I mean, their target is the wetlands.
We'll talk about it later. Okay.
I'll put nicer words than this in, but I'll put this in right here. I'll make it look a little bit better. Okay.
Okay, that was Gail. Indra, anything further?
No, I don't have anything further. Thank
you. Ed, anything further?
You know, I keep coming back to the question of maintenance. I looked at well, I come back to the culvert and the stream. How do we manage that stream when you're dealing with things like this now? They're watching and they're checking the basins and things of that sort, but shouldn't the stream somewhere be noted that it has to be maintained? Especially where you're putting in a culvert.
So this stream crossing culvert is far better than most of the stream crossing culverts in town. This actually meets standards. It's much wider. It's not just some round pipe that the water gets forced through like it is under a lot of roads. It's but we do have a town stream cleaning program as well.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Kent, anything further? Nope. Okay. Okay, Bill, anything further on the conditions?
No, not on the conditions.
Okay. I guess I have two questions. One is, for putting in the footings for these foundations, do you really expect you won't have to dewater it all? I mean, we have a condition that if you need to, you have to submit a dewatering plan, but should we simply require a dewatering plan because you really expect it, or you think you don't need it? I don't know what the answer is.
I think that's an acceptable condition.
So just say, please, that a dewatering plan is required to be submitted, period. Something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, I just think probably it's likely you'll have to deal with some more. Okay, Eileen, you got that in the? For number 4 and number 5?
Scrolling up to see where it goes.
I think it's in there.
Okay.
Dewatering.
Rather than make it conditional, you just say a dewatering plan is required. It makes it more efficient for these
He
folks
just
too.
said there shall be no dewatering plan unless the commission has received and approved a dewatering plan. So are you okay with that, or do you want it to be addressed to say just straight out a dewatering plan shall be submitted before construction, which would address like that?
Dewatering, yeah, I would just do that, submit it before, just.
Yeah.
I think these folks seem to have acknowledged they probably will need one.
That's acceptable.
Okay, thanks. Thank you, Phyllis. Thank you. Mary. And the last thing I have is the wetlands replication. Is that on only lot 4, or is it lot 5 too?
There's
I
only
think it's only on lot 4.
Okay, and so my last comment is on condition number 60. It says the construction and planting of the wetland replication area shall be overseen by a wetland scientist. Of course, Mary, I'm assuming that's you, but I don't know if that's the case. But the point is when you say it shall be overseen, is that the same thing as the word supervised? In other words, if it says you were actively supervising the,
I think supervised or monitored by is a better word than what's in there.
I do too. That's why I brought it. Okay, Eileen, did you get that? Will be supervised by a wetland scientist.
I'm just scrolling down to find it.
Number 60 on 4 Redmond Street.
Number 60 on 4 Redmond. Okay. Oh, that's the article, sorry. Number 60. You are saying you like supervised better than overseen? Is that what you're
Yeah, overseen implies you check on it, I think. Supervise means you're directing it, it should be done this way.
I
And
get to be the boss of David.
and I have a lot of faith in your experience and capabilities, Mary.
And bossiness.
Okay. Oh, I didn't say that. You said that.
I know.
Okay. That's all I have. So are we ready to proceed? Any other comments from anyone? All right. So could I have a motion to close the hearing on DEP file number 122-646, which is the 646, which is the hearing for the Redmond Street roadway.
Gail?
Second.
Second, Ed.
All right. Gail, how do you vote?
Yes.
Indra?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
Okay, and the chair votes yes. So the Redmond Street roadway, DEP number 122-646 the hearing is closed. Could I have a motion to close the hearing on number 4 Redmond Street, DEP file number 122-645?
So moved. Indra.
Second, Bill.
Okay, Gail?
Yes.
Indra?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
The chair votes yes. So DEP file number 122-645, number 4 Redmond Street, the hearing is closed. Could I have a motion to close the hearing on number 5 Redmond Street, DEP file number 122-644?
Moved, Gail?
Second, Ed.
Gail, how do you vote?
Yes.
Indra?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. So number 5 Redmond Street, DEP file number 122-644, the hearing is now closed. Could I have a motion to waive the 2-to-1 requirement that we have in our regulations for wetlands replication, 2-to-1 replication ratio, to waive that requirement and require 1-to-1 replication in consideration for the donation of 1.7 acres of land by Mr. Murray.
So moved it.
Second?
Second, Indra.
Okay, what's the discussion? Gail, how do you vote?
So I'm not in favor of this waiver. I, feel like when we put together the bylaws, that we had, good rationale for the 2-to-1 in terms of the effectiveness of replication and the integrity of maintaining the wetlands.
Okay, Indra?
Yes.
Bill?
No,
Ed?
Yes.
The chair votes yes by a vote of 3-2. The requirement for waiving the 2-to-1 replication ratio back to 1-to-1 is approved. Okay. Next, we have the findings. Could I have a motion to adopt the findings for DEP file number 122-646 for the Redmond Street roadway under Burlington bylaw, Article 14? Is there a motion?
So moved it.
Second?
Second, Indra.
All right. Gail, how do you vote on adopting the findings for the roadway?
I'm opposed.
Indra?
Yes.
Bill?
I'm going to read some comments that sort of apply to the project as a whole. So I won't repeat them 3 times, but be in mind that the same comments to me apply throughout the 3 separate proposals. There's a lot of water on this site. And you've heard my comments about how I'm not comfortable with the water levels and the clearances from the foundations and the infiltration chambers and things like that. There's going to be a lot of tree cutting on this in this project. My back of an envelope calculations, I'm talking entire roadway and cul-de-sac is like 9,000 square feet. The 2 house lots and yards, it's about 13,000 square feet. Wetland replication is just under 5,000 square feet. The infiltration chamber is another 1,000 square feet. You're talking 28,000 square feet that's going to be totally denuded of trees and shrubs. That's only going to exacerbate the water problems. It's a beautiful natural property with valuable wetlands. And I think that legally you've come up with a way to meet the rules and shoehorn a couple of houses in there with major alterations, replications, and variances. And legally, officially, I probably should vote to approve. But morally, ethically, I cannot vote to destroy the natural value and beauty of this property for the benefit of a handful of people, developers, and a pair of well-to-do house buyers. If the property proposed to be donated is worth protecting as conservation land, I'd rather see the Conservation Commission make a motion to town meeting to buy it. I'd like to see the town buy this property. I think it's too late for that though. So my responsibility as a conservation commissioner is to enforce the bylaws and regulation as written. But the letter of the law may say these houses can be built, but my conscience tells me that it shouldn't be developed. So I'm stuck between, I should vote yes, and I can't vote yes. So I abstain on all 3 of these issues.
Are you voting for the findings, which I'm not sure is in dispute, or are you not voting on the finding? Are you going to abstain from the findings?
After the findings is what?
Then the actual conditions,
The conditions.
which is the permit. That's the permit part of it.
Okay. The findings as illustrated, I don't have any, I vote yes for the findings.
All right, so on the roadway, you vote yes. So we have Indra and Bill as a yes. Ed, how do you vote on the findings for the roadway?
Yes.
The chair votes yes by a vote of 4 Gail, you're no, right? I can't hear you, Gail. Still can't hear you, Gail.
I'm sorry, I was just listening to what you clarified for Bill. So is the permit linked to the conditions? Is that correct?
I believe that's the case. John or Eileen can step in case I'm in error.
Right, so the findings are just the findings of fact, not the permit itself, not the conditions.
But the findings also include the agreement for the replication though, correct?
No, that's a condition.
All right,
Yeah.
so I'm sorry, I was in error that my vote should be an affirmative for the findings.
Okay,
Thank you.
yeah, that's fine. And Ed, you said yes, right?
Right,
And
yes.
chair votes yes. So by a vote of 5-0-0, the findings for the Redmond Street roadway are approved. Okay, could I have a motion to accept the findings under Burlington Bylaw Article 14 or number 4 Redmond Street DEP file number 122-645?
So move, Bill.
Second.
Second.
Okay, Gail, how do you vote? The
Yes,
finding.
yes,
Indra,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Ed,
Yes,
the chair votes yes. So by a vote of 5-0-0, the findings for number 4 Redmond Street, DEP number 122-645 is approved. All right, could I have a motion to adopt the findings under Burlington Bylaw Article 14 for number 5 Redmond Street, DEP file number 122-644?
so moved, Gail.
Second. Okay, Gail, how do you vote?
Yes,
Indra,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Ed?
yes,
Okay, and the chair votes yes. So by a vote of 5-0-0, the findings for number 5 Redmond Street, DEP file number 122-644 is approved. All right, now, the permit conditions. Could I have a motion to adopt the permit order of conditions under Burlington Bylaw Article 14 in the State Wetlands Protection Act for DEP file number 122-646, the Redmond Street roadway?
So Larry, you should probably vote the bylaw permit and the order of conditions separately.
Okay. Is there a reason for that?
Well, they're two different permits, so I mean, since there seems to be some lack of unanimity, it's probably better to have them voted separately.
Okay, so go through them all 3 times. Okay. All right. Could
Well,
I,
just to clarify, so under the Wetlands Protection Act permit that you're voting on, there's no requirement for 2-to-1. It's just strictly 1-to-1. So theoretically, somebody could be opposed to the bylaw decision because you're not requiring the 2-to-1, but in favor of the State Wetlands Protection Act permit because it doesn't require 2-to-1.
very good point, Sean. Thank you for that clarification.
can I ask for a clarification though, but don't our conditions that go along with that permit, like talk about the replication? No?
Yep, they do.
All right.
All right. Let's try this. Could I have a motion to approve the conditions under the State Wetlands Protection Act for the Redmond Street roadway for DEP file number 122-646? Is there a motion?
So moved. Indra.
Second.
Ed,
All
second,
right. Okay. Unless there's discussion. Gail, how do you vote?
No,
Okay. And Indra?
Yes.
Okay. Bill?
For the reasons previously stated, I abstain.
Okay. Ed?
yes,
Chair votes yes. So by a vote of 3-1-1, the Redmond Street roadway, DEP file number 122-646 is approved under the State Wetlands Protection Act. Could I have a motion to adopt the order of conditions under Burlington Bylaw Article 14 for DEP file number 122-646 for the Redmond Street roadway?
So moved, Indra.
Second,
Second, Ed.
all right, so we have a motion for the bylaw for the Redmond Street roadway. Gail, how do you vote?
No,
Okay, Indra,
Yes.
Bill,
Abstain.
Ed,
Yes.
the chair votes yes. By a vote of 3-1-1, the Redmond Street roadway is approved under Burlington bylaw Article 14. The conditions are approved for DEP file number 122-646. All right, now for number 4 Redmond Street, DEP file number 122-645. Is there a motion to approve the order of conditions under the State Wetlands Protection Act?
So moved, Indra.
Second,
Second, Ed.
okay. Gail, how do you vote?
no,
Indra,
Yes.
Bill,
I abstain.
and Ed?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. So by a vote of 3-1-1, the order of conditions under the State Wetlands Protection Act for DEP file number 122-645, which is number 4 Redmond Street, is approved. All right. Could I have a motion to adopt the order of conditions under Burlington bylaw for DEP file number 122-645 for number 4 Redmond Street?
So moved, Indra.
Second,
Second, Ed.
all right. Gail,
no,
Indra,
Yes.
Bill,
I abstain.
and Ed?
Yes.
The chair votes yes by a vote of 3-1-1. The order of conditions for number 4 Redmond Street under, this one, I think this was Burlington bylaw Article 14 for DEP file number 122-645 by a vote of 3-1-1 is approved. Okay, I think I'm done with that. Now, next one. Could I have a motion to approve for number 5 Redmond Street, DEP file number 122-644, the order of conditions under the State Wetlands Protection Act?
So moved, Ed.
Second,
Second, Indra.
all right, Gail,
no,
Indra,
Yes.
Bill,
I abstain.
Ed,
Yes.
chair votes yes by a vote of 3-1-1. Number 5 Redmond Street, DEP file number 122-644 is approved under the State Wetlands Protection Act. Okay, could I have a motion to approve number 5 Redmond Street for DEP file number 122-644 under Burlington bylaw Article 14?
So moved, Ed.
Second,
Second, Indra.
okay, one more time, folks. Gail,
no,
Indra,
Yes.
Bill, sorry.
I abstain.
Yeah, Ed,
Yes.
did you say yes?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes by a vote of 3-1-1. The number 5 Redmond Street, DEP file number 122-644 is approved under Burlington bylaw Article 14. Okay, next we have the bond. Okay, what is the bond request for the roadway?
I think it was 15,000. Just double check it.
So while Eileen's checking that, Larry, for the sake of time, and if you want to just have one vote on all 3 bonds under one motion, I think that would be okay,
Okay.
because we're approaching the curfew.
What's the curfew?
10
Nine.
o'clock.
The bond for the roadway was 15,000. The bond for each house was 5.
So you're suggesting I make $125,000 requirement for the whole thing?
Oh, no, just just one motion for 15,000 and 5,000 and 5,000.
All right. Could I have a motion to require the posting, is it cash surety bond, John?
Correct. Yes.
Cash surety bond, 15,000 for the Redmond Street roadway, DEP file number 122-646 of 15,000. 5,000 for number 4 Redmond Street, DEP file number 122-645, and 5,000, additional 5,000 for DEP file number 122-644, which is number 5 Redmond Street. Is there a motion?
So moved, Ed.
A second?
For all.
Second, Indra.
All right, Gail, how do you vote?
Is there any discussion of the bond? So the one for number 5 that has the wetland replication, that's the same bond as the house number 4?
So the replication is under the roadway order of
Is it the roadway?
conditions.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Okay, even though that belongs to property 5.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's for the roadway project.
Got it. Okay, yes.
Okay, Indra,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Ed,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes by a vote of 500. The request to post $15,000 cash surety for the roadway, 5,000 for number 4 Redmond Street, and 5,000 more for number 5 Redmond Street is approved by a vote of 500. Okay, is there anything else we need to do here?
No.
Okay, this has been quite a journey. And I will just say that although I know there's been some dissent over whether the project should be approved on the commission, I do think that you were very straightforward with regard to your answers and diligence in answering all our questions. So I thank you for that very much.
I'll agree with that, Larry. I agree. You guys have worked hard and you presented honest information. I just don't agree with the concept, that's all.
Okay, anyone else want to make a comment?
I agree.
Well-
I think they've done their best to, come up with some accommodations, but as with Bill, I don't agree with the project. When we did the site visit, I felt like we were largely in a large wetland with a couple of isolated islands of upland.
Right, right.
Well, for me, the things is, even though if I don't like some of the things, but there is always a give and take. And yes, they have worked very diligently, and they are doing everything legally. And plus, they're giving 1.7 acres to the town,
Right.
which I liked it, and that's why I voted for yes.
So, Kent, do you have any comment on this? You've been with us the whole time.
No, I would agree. I mean, I think the donation of the 1.7 acres is, I agree with Indra. But
Yeah, and I think although there is some dispute on the value of the 1.7 acres is significant enough to waive their replication ratio, the dispute on the commission. I do think in the absolute sense, getting land these days contiguous to existing town-owned land or conservation area is not that easy these days. So it does have considerable value. Phyllis, would you like to make any comments at all?
You're muted.
Sorry. I'd like to thank you all for your patience and diligence in reviewing our applications. And with that, I'd like to thank you and call it a night.
Right. Mary, you have any comments? David?
No, I mean, I think that everybody involved did their best. We did our best to give you a project that complied with your regulations and the town bylaws and laws, and you did your best to review it in an impartial way. This is how it's supposed to work.
David?
Thank you, everybody. And I will invite everybody come out during construction. You can watch us. You can see how we do work. Mr. Murray does very good work. We keep up on it. We supervise it very well, and you'll see that we keep the site very clean. And if we have to dewater, we will, but I don't think we will. So anyway, invite any of the commission members to come out during construction. It's an interesting project. So thank you.
It is. I think with the amount of engineering that went into 2 house lots, I can't imagine that the financials are gonna work well for you guys, but that's up to you guys. All right. So with that, I guess we're all set unless someone wants to say something further. Thank you all very much.
Thank you and good night.
Thank
night.
you. Good night.
Good night.
Hey,
Okay. It's hard to believe we actually got disposed of that project finally. It's been on our docket for quite a while. All right, so,
let me make one comment too myself
Yeah.
This is probably the biggest thing I've seen happen yet since I've been a commissioner, but it was a learning curve. And I really respect Bill and Gail's position. Nobody likes to see something that they dearly, really respect in this world of conservation. There's so many things that went into this piece by piece by piece that you could have controversy almost on every one of them to some extent. So my respect for both you guys and how you feel. We all have to look at it from a professional point of view and bylaws that follow. But I thank you. It's been an education also for me. And hopefully I learn more as I go forward.
very well said, Ed, thank you. All right, let's move on. I think we have a few things left. We have discussion for 127 Bedford Street, have been waiting, I think they're waiting patiently on about paver blocks. Is that the case?
Yes,
All right, please identify yourself and the floor is yours. Sorry for the long wait.
that's okay. It seems like you folks made good progress tonight.
We did,
Um,
but it was a long wait nevertheless.
So the commissioner may recall this project at 127 Bedford Street. It has had past enforcement orders. I was in front of the commission in 2020 to resolve some of those past enforcement orders. I was notified, geez, I guess it was early January, that paver patios were installed in front of the dwelling. These paver patios, they're located outside of the 100-foot buffer zone, but they are subject to the stormwater permit, erosion control permit. I spoke to my client and apparently and I'm not sure, and Eileen, you might want to step in. I think there was some sort of miscommunication between the landscaper and Eileen. My understanding from my client is the landscaper reached out to the town and had asked to do some additional area and ended up doing more than I think was expected. But Eileen, please fill in because I wasn't there for the conversation, so I don't want to speak out of line for anyone.
No, that is basically what happened. I went along to inspect Hyro's erosion controls, which were in place and they were looking fine. And then while we were chatting, he said something like, and I'm going to put down a patio for them. And however we were facing or talking or whatever, my understanding was it was just a patio. I assumed a patio was a small thing and that it was going to be in the front left. And he did say something about parking. So I thought, oh, they just want to put 2 cars in there. And since it was well outside the 100-foot buffer zone, I said, okay. I didn't ask for dimensions. I assumed a patio meant something small. One of the neighbors did contact us. I think it may have been Carrie. I see her here. A couple of weeks later saying, hey, do you know they're doing other work? And I said, yes, that's fine. I had approved it. Again, I just thought it was a patio, meaning a small thing. but then we discovered a couple of weeks later that they had put the pavers across the whole front of the lot, right to left, fence to fence, front to the house. So, I mean, yes, there was a misunderstanding. I know Hyro did try to tell me there was a patio, but I did not understand that it was covering the whole front of the lot.
So regardless, we're obviously not in compliance with the permit. And the objective for tonight is to get my client back into compliance with the permit and with the commission. And just kind of maybe have an initial discussion. I know your meeting's running late, on the best way to resolve this problem.
So can I make a suggestion? I think the Conservation Commission should probably do a site visit before the next meeting, and determine and look at the site and see what possibly mitigation is required. So the concern is this is now additional runoff going to an area that was already problematic because of the tree removals and whatnot. So the water level was already higher from the past actions, and now there's runoff from this. The front yard is now basically impervious. So I think you should go out and see it and then discuss it at the subsequent meeting.
Is this something, John, that we should consider tomorrow with this big storm coming?
No, before the next meeting, if you go see it, I think by the middle of next week, it's going to be, the rains, there's going to be warm weather and rain, and most of the snow should be gone again.
Okay.
Plus, I would imagine they're plowing this area. They've done this primarily, I think, for parking.
All right. Okay, so should we table this discussion then until the commission has had a chance to look at it? That way we'd have a better idea of what we could possibly do to mitigate the runoff.
Sure. Well, Maureen, would you like to attend a site visit with the Conservation Commission?
If I'm available, I'm more than happy to attend. If I did take some photographs, geez, I think it was early January. So if some of you can't make it tomorrow and if we do get a lot of snow cover, I can submit those to the commission.
Maureen, did
Okay.
you or the homeowner have any suggestions?
I'm sorry, Eileen, can you say that again?
I'm sorry, I said, did either you or the homeowner have any suggestions?
For mitigation?
Yes, yeah.
Well, under the original permit, there was an infiltration trench proposed to mitigate. So there was an existing driveway, and under the original permit, there was a bump out area for parking. So my initial thought is we can expand that infiltration trench and we can infiltrate some of this area. But other than that, I was looking more for some feedback from the commission to get your initial thoughts.
Okay, let me ask you, is this paved area in front or in back?
Right in front.
Front yard.
So the obvious thing would be a runoff trench, infiltration trench or something of that nature. I'm without seeing it, to me, it's just obvious that would be the.
Did you see the picture?
Well, a trench could just convey the water back to the backyard, and then it would end up in the Callahan's yard as well. So.
Can I interject, please?
Yeah, I was gonna call on you. Hang on one sec. I did see you there. Thank you. Anybody else from the commission want to say anything first, and then I'll call on Ms. Callahan.
This is Gail. I just have a question. So, are these pervious pavers? Or are they?
No, I don't believe so.
No. Okay. So I mean, it looks like it's like the whole front yard has been paved, and I mean that's kind of made like the whole front yard impervious. So I think we need to see it, but I think it's going to need more than a stone trench, personally.
Yeah, possibly, of course. Okay, Ms. Callahan, do you have some comments? You've been waiting patiently for this item. I'm sorry you had to wait so long. It was kind of unusual that we had this much stuff going on.
Oh, I know. You guys are very busy with all the building going on in Burlington. I totally understand. So when I saw them putting the pavers down, You know, I dug up that plan that I had approved, that you guys approved a year and a half ago. It is nothing like the plan. They have done whatever they want. I called John Keeley as soon as I saw it. I never spoke to Eileen. I called John Keeley and said, this isn't fair. Why did I go to 3 meetings when they're just doing whatever they want anyway? The front yard was not supposed to be paved. It was supposed to be grass. There was already supposed to be a trench to the driveway. That's not there. I don't even want to show you my backyard right now. My son could go outside and skate in my backyard right now. That's how much water I'm getting from this backyard. I am so annoyed that they're allowed to do whatever they want. And I went over to Cairo myself and spoke with him and said, you have approval from the town for this? And he said, yes. He said Eileen gave him the approval and that was okay. It's not outside the 100 feet of the wetlands. I can tell you that right now. Please come and visit. Please come and see what they're doing, because I don't know why I wasted hours of my time and of your time coming to these meetings, having someone watch my 3 children, have my husband leave hockey that he coaches my son to come to these meetings if they were able to do whatever they wanted. It's not fair.
Carrie, which house is yours? The one to the left of theirs or the one behind theirs? As
The
you're
one
facing
of
theirs?
it.
To the left, okay, thank you.
Right, right. When we do this site visit, is that tomorrow? Is that what we're talking about?
No, before the next meeting, before the meeting on the 10th. So the February 9th, probably.
At that site visit, can we review on site what was required of them in the previous decision?
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Copies of the
Also-
plan to the commission. If that works, I'll bring a bunch of copies of the approved plan so everybody can see it. So that's not a
Okay.
problem.
Okay,
And also if, if there's any continued work that maybe the office can convey to them to stop work.
They haven't been there since this happened.
okay. Well, I will say, Ms. Callahan, we are not overtly allowing them to do whatever they want. That is not the case. They had a specific set of conditions and they were supposed to adhere to it. They may not have adhered to it, and that you may be 100% correct.
Mhm.
But we don't overtly allow them to do something like that.
Oh, no, I understand. They're just not adhering to the plan that was agreed upon.
Oh, that could very well be.
Mhm.
I don't doubt what you're saying. So we'll take a look at it. We'll look at what was approved and what they have done. And I guess we'll have to go from there. We'll have
Okay.
to see. Okay, and Maureen,
Yes.
could you prepare a statement for us and to what the extent of compliance is with respect to what was approved? Could you get us something in writing?
Okay, so just the status of what work has been done relative to the permit
Well,
and
comparison of what was approved and whether it's in compliance to the extent that they did it, and what they have not done has yet to be done under whatever we approved previously. Could you basically do an inspection of that?
not a problem.
Okay. All right, could we have that before the next time we meet on this?
Absolutely. We're gonna get snow. I'm gonna be stuck in the office. So that is not a problem.
All right, that's great. Thank you very much. All right, so is there anything more on this item?
No, so we'll put this on the February 10th agenda and do a site visit before that.
All right, that sounds good.
These
And
people had a previous violation, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
okay. All right, so we'll get a summary from Maureen on that and we'll review it on site as well. Okay. Anything else from anyone on this item?
Nope.
All right, well, thank you and have a good evening.
Thank you.
Okay. Next is the proposed revisions to the stormwater bylaw. I know it's late, but we kind of have a time crunch, don't we, to get all this done to go before the bylaw review committee for the May town meeting?
Yes.
Yeah, we're
I sent out a doodle poll to a few people earlier. Obviously, anybody else is welcome to join, but we're going to meet up with the Board of Health just to get their hopefully final feedback on what we're proposing so far.
And Eileen actually met with the bylaw review committee at their last meeting just to sort of give them a heads up about this.
Okay. All right. And so, Eileen, would you like to go through the significant issues that have been considered and changed to its final form? Would that be,
Well, it's really this. We haven't made any changes since we all met the last time, and at that time I gave you guys a summary. So just from a memory, we've changed a bunch of the thresholds so that small additions of impervious would still come under the permit that we issue administratively. Larger projects, including anything over, I think it was 5,000 square feet, or any tear down, would get a full hearing. We're proposing to change the name to say stormwater rather than erosion and sedimentation control, because there's a tendency for a lot of contractors to think it's only about construction runoff, but it's really about more than that. We're requiring stamped PE plans for anything that is going before the commission, and any impact that's greater than 7,000 square feet or increased impervious greater than 700 square feet. I think that's most of the main changes that will affect us and will affect builders.
well, I'll just say that we established the limit for assuming that somebody is from the 500 to square feet to 900 square feet of impervious area being disturbed. We did it based on, I suggested it based on a hypothetical house, that a 3-bedroom, 1.5 bath Burlington house might propose something as big as 20 by 25, and a driveway might be something like 14 by 30 for a 2-car garage underneath. And so that when you look at that disturbance, that gives an impervious area being disturbed of 900 square feet. The lower limit might be a more modest addition of, say, 20 by 25, and just being added on, and that would be something like 500 square feet. So that's the basis of where we came up with those numbers. Okay, and
We come up with a basis for 700 square feet that comes in there when you're talking about getting a plan. Why not just keep it at the
That
500?
was kind of just a compromise number. We had talked about, what was it, 1,000 square feet, and then there's still an issue of the Board of Health and us concerned that we're still missing out on the opportunity to get stamped plans. So we just kind of, it was a kind of a compromise number.
in other words, the 500 would have a compromise, would have an abbreviated permit, and at least have some conditions attached to their project. You know, it wouldn't be a stamp plan. It wouldn't be, you know, at 500, it would, you know, square feet of disturbance of previous area being disturbed, new area being disturbed. It wouldn't be, an as-built plan being required and a performance bond. But we didn't want to burden a really small project with having all those requirements.
Right.
So we came up with 700, Bill, for having at least a stamp plan.
Okay. I had a couple of general comments that you may want to make note of. First of all, we changed the name of the whole title, and that changed the names of some of the definitions, so they're no longer in alphabetical order.
Right.
Some that began with E now begin with S, or vice versa. So
Have I not fixed those?
not in the latest version you sent.
Thank you. Thank you.
And the other thing I had was there's 2 different places at least that I saw where we mentioned we would do it with input from the planning board. Why aren't we saying and the Board of Health?
because this bylaw is administered by the planning board and us, that's the way it always has been. Board of Health has
Okay.
their own regulation.
Okay, so we're just coordinating with the Board of Health as a
Just
courtesy to write it and help us with input, but they're
they
not
have a lot of
actually,
overlap.
they're not actually
The
bound
Board
by
of
it.
Health,
Okay.
the Board of Health does their work on stormwater by whether there's a violation of their stormwater bylaw, and then they do enforcement. We do it through a set of, not only that, we do it by enforcing permit conditions, bonding, and using professional engineers to stamp plans above a certain threshold.
Okay.
Except the Board of Health doesn't have a bylaw.
Right.
Board of Health regulations.
Yeah, and we are now calling out routine landscaping activities. So, John, do you have any comment? If somebody wants to, how we handled in the past? If somebody is just adding 3 inches of soil across their yard because they want to reseed it and hydroseed it, have we had erosion and sedimentation control permits for that? Usually?
Well, the bylaw says routine landscaping activities are exempt. So, I mean, I'm not really sure about 3 inches alone. It's not, the bylaw isn't that specific, but
Okay.
that if somebody's redoing an existing lawn, no, we haven't required a filing. The bylaw hasn't required it.
Okay. All right. And okay. I think, let me see if there's anything else. Anyone else on the commission while I'm looking through this for a minute? Anyone else have a comment on what we're doing here?
Just that, I mean, I think it's a good move, because as Eileen had mentioned, there, you know, projects that I often see too and ask about that haven't fallen under our previous regulations for stormwater that end up causing some runoff into the street and things like that.
Right.
You'll definitely see more projects. So there'll be more projects on your agenda that Eileen was handling administratively before.
Right.
So you'll have to push your curfew later.
Okay. I'll
That's
be
all right.
retired.
Gail's retired now. She doesn't mind.
Or maybe just start earlier.
There you go.
We could. The selectmen start at 6.
I'm all for that.
Bill, you raised the question of whether any stormwater infiltration system should be evaluated by a licensed engineer.
Yeah.
How is this handled generally? I mean, what's the answer to that question? And
If you're asking me, just because I'm kind of in the field, typically up to now, it hasn't been. A lot of contractors, you know, I mean, they use the standard equipment. So for the most part, it's totally fine. If they propose to, you know, SD, you know, and they'll have names with letters and numbers. And that is generally perfectly adequate to take the amount of runoff that would be from even a substantial roof. But what we don't know is what are the ground conditions like? Are they actually suitable for infiltration? So that's kind of part where some of the issues come in. I
well,
mean, it's the engineering.
well, above 700 square feet of new impervious surface, we're going to have a stamp plan, right?
That's the proposal.
Right.
I will admit, I think we're going to get some pushback on the low numbers.
Yeah, well, we're getting a lot of pushback from neighbors battling it out too.
True.
John, any comment?
No, nothing additional.
All right, is it your recommendation, John and Eileen, that this is solid? We should move forward to try to get this through?
So I think we're going to propose to have on the next agenda, have it as a public hearing to sort of make it more formal. So we'll advertise a public hearing so that you can have a formal vote on this.
Yes.
And if there's anybody in the public, we'll advertise it. Anybody who wants to provide testimony.
In the past, we have sent stuff like this to Bob Buckley and he circulates it to anybody else that might be interested. Should we be doing that again?
I mean, we can. This doesn't really affect the commercial property owners very much. This really has a much greater impact on the smaller projects. The larger ones that Bob represents have already been captured by the existing bylaw.
Yes.
It's the home builders who are, and even the private property owners who are more affected by this.
Yeah, the
All right.
smaller contractors would be more impacted by the need to have certified plans and stuff like that.
Yes.
Should we make some sort of an effort to actually make this known that we're having this public meeting to the smaller contractors?
You mean beyond advertising in the newspaper, like reaching out
Yeah.
to them by email or something?
Yep.
I don't know. I think they keep abreast of what we're doing, pretty much.
I'm not
I
sure.
guess, who would you decide to contact and then, you know, a lot of small contractors and
That
if,
is a very good question, but when I was, so I have, for the stormwater, the MS4 stuff, I have to do a lot of education. And one of the things I did a few months ago was I sent an email to a bunch of contractors who've done work, like substantial building additions or more in the town in the last year or so. So I do have their email addresses. It could be opening up a big can of worms.
It could.
Yeah, especially if somebody isn't on your list and they feel like they weren't notified, you know.
It's true too, yeah.
Well, I mean, to a certain extent, I mean, we've changed the threshold for the abbreviated permit of 5,000 to 15,000. And the abbreviated permit, if that's what qualifies, is simply a standard set of conditions still, right?
Yeah, but this abbreviated one is now capturing really only pretty small projects.
It's now capturing small projects.
Well, yeah, I mean, sorry, the proposed abbreviated permit will only capture the quite small projects. You're going to be addressing a lot, every single tear down, and every single large addition.
Well, do we want to somehow call out drainage instead of, I mean, if somebody is putting in an addition and is putting in 700 square foot addition, and that's all they're doing, they're putting in some bedrooms off to the side, stuff like that. And the garage is on the other side. They would have to get they're not likely to necessarily have drainage if it's just connecting gutters and letting it discharge on the grass. So do we need to be more specific?
About what?
Do we need to be more specific that when we need stamp plans is when drainage is being designed? Anybody have an opinion on that? I don't even know where I'm going with this.
Well, I think part of what we were trying to do though is to address the increase in impervious, and an addition means a new roof or a new driveway, whatever.
Right, so they're gonna have to design something to handle that increased roof runoff, otherwise they'll just be dumping it anywhere. And so they should have an engineer design, have a test pits, have dry wells or infiltrators proposed.
Right.
Yeah, I agree with something like that, but what if it's just a driveway with a, you know, a stone trench on the side? I mean, is that something we're gonna have to have an engineer's stamp if it's more than 500 square feet?
Well, of course, we can just simply waive the requirement.
That's right. It says we have the right to waive it, that's right.
So we could just simply waive the stamping of a plan, getting a
Right.
stamped plan if, when they approach the commission and say we have a project, we could give discretion to to our staff to waive the requirement for having an engineered plan if they think it's not necessary.
So it'd be granting a variance like we do for other issues
Like granting a variance, but we wouldn't be granting it. It would be at the discretion of our staff.
of the staff. Okay, okay, gotcha.
In other words, so they don't have to incur the expense.
Yes, that's
What
what
I'm
I'm thinking.
concerned about is a homeowner needlessly incurring an expense.
Yeah.
Because we're overdoing the requirement for a specific project, when some of them will certainly be worthwhile and need to be captured that way.
Yeah. If they're putting something in the ground that's supposed to absorb a certain volume of water, we want to make sure it will.
Right,
But
but
if
if they're putting in, an addition, I'll say it's just a large addition and a trench around the perimeter of the property, we often, for an addition, we don't ask for anything, other than we tell them they can do it. John, do you think that's a possibility of going this way with that?
So,
You want to think about it?
yeah, I want to think about it.
Can't we put it as like as needed basis? Because, you know, if the project is complicated, then we can require somebody, you know, we need a stamped drawing. If it is simple, then we don't need, you know, can't we keep that way or?
That's kind of
I mean, what's simple? Is a 700-foot addition simple?
No, we don't know. That's why it should be case by case basis. When it comes in front of us, we would see.
Right. I mean, I suppose if it's a 700-foot addition and the nearest house is 300 feet away, that's one thing. A 700-foot addition that's 15 feet from the lot line with a
Correct.
slope down to the neighbor's property is a totally
Yeah.
different thing.
Correct. That's why we can.
That's my point, but when they make an inquiry, you would be the first one to see that.
Right.
Eileen. Would you think about it, whether we can work with something like that? Because I don't want to impose unnecessary restrictions on homeowners for
Right.
things that are.
Yeah.
de
I mean,
minimis.
that's fine. I think we should have guidelines though, so it isn't viewed as us making an arbitrary decision that could save, a developer thousands of dollars in engineering fees. I just want to make sure that, that it's, the guidelines are very clear so that we're not accused of making arbitrary decisions,
okay.
Right.
And it can be worded one of two ways. It can be worded that it's required, but it may be waived by discretion, or it can be worded that it may be required by discretion. Normally it wouldn't be, but there are situations and above a certain square footage where we may decide that it is necessary. Rather than saying it's always necessary and maybe we decide that it's not. It would make it a little more, it may not be required unless we deem that you're close to your abutter or, there's a significant slope or something like that. If that made any sense.
Okay, we'll, John and I will think about if and how to change any wording to capture that more clearly, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that maybe the bylaw can articulate the intent of what we think needs to be stamped, typical things that need to be stamped. Or I don't know. I don't know. The thing's a little messy, right now. So.
I think it's fairly clear at the moment, but
No, right now it's clear. No, Eileen, right now it's clear. But if we start putting in conditional statements in a bylaw, it gets messy.
Yeah.
How about like we have a clause already like peer review, right? But we do not require peer review for every project. How do we handle that? The peer review of any complicated project.
It's a good question, Indra. The bylaw gives us the authority to ask for a peer review. Is that correct?
That's
Which
my
bylaw?
understanding.
What's that?
Which bylaw are you referring to? The stormwater bylaw?
No, the wetlands bylaw.
It may. Yeah, I think it does.
So we might look at that language. So why don't we look at that language to see if it might have some application to this situation?
I think it's in there already. You're talking about a peer review, is that what you were saying?
Yeah, but he's saying that it might be analogous is what Indra's, I think, is saying.
Right.
how do we word that? How do we decide when a peer review is needed? You know, it's in a case-by-case basis, and that person might say, you're picking on me, you didn't require it for somebody else. So, you know, how is it worded that we have the right to make the decision if we want? And then could we do something similar here?
Well, that wording is in there, and I think it's been in there since like the 2007 bylaw. We
Yeah.
didn't change anything with that. I think it's probably standard wording.
Yeah.
I'll think about this and reconvene in the public meeting we're going to have.
Yep.
Sorry, hearing.
John, you think that's the best approach? Or do we need an offline sub discussion of it?
So I think you could just probably, you know, write something and circulate it, but, you know, I think for what John's talking about in terms of, you know, not wanting to appear that you are giving preferential treatment to some people and not to others, and people fear that there's some type of standard being applied, that there should be, you know, something that, you know, you have the requirements that you already have, and then, you know, mitigating factors may be proximity to neighbor, you know, that kind of thing, so that people understand, oh yeah, I guess that's why they accepted that one, because that one, you know, has a much bigger property and there are no nearby neighbors or something like that.
Of course, we could put in a specific reference at the point at which we're talking about stamp plans for additional impervious surface. The requirement for the stamp plan, a waiver may be requested if the applicant so desires, and we could put in some word that to tell them there is an option to request a waiver. We don't have to approve it.
They would have to request it and justify it in some manner.
Yeah, and just say and to say what the intent is. We with that statement, we say what a couple of sentences, what the intent is.
So before we go too far down this road, so we're meeting again with the Board of Health, hopefully before the February 10th meeting. I know Eileen sent out a doodle poll, and I think there were like the 2 or 3 days before the 10th. So, I mean, it'd be interesting to see what the Board of Health perspective is on these, you know, smaller projects and the stamped requirements and everything, because, I mean, to be fair, they're dealing with a lot of these issues on the small lots, you know, small projects. So,
Right.
so it'd be good to get their feedback as well.
Right. All right. Okay, so should we just end the discussion now with this? With that?
And so we'll have a public hearing, an advertised public hearing on February 10th on this.
Okay.
Oh, at our meeting. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, with it inside our meeting. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Any planning board comments?
None.
Subcommittee and staff reports?
No.
Other business?
Real quick, sorry. So I sent everybody an email that with a link to the recording from the meeting that was yesterday by the people, Mosquito, which are looking at reforming aerial spraying. And I really encourage you to look at it. And if you, you know, agree with what they're trying to do, to get in touch with both local people like the health department and then also the state and representatives and senators. I mean, I think it's a really important issue if you're interested in clean water and your health.
Yeah. All right, very good. Thank you, Gail. All right, anything other business? Next meeting is February 10th and February 24th. Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Gail, how do you vote?
Yes.
Indra?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
Okay, and the chair votes yes by a vote of 500. This meeting of the Conservation Commission is adjourned.